Gods. Kings. Fire. And blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons. Aegon, Alys.
And welcome all to our House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 4 live discussion and a look ahead at Episode 5, which is dropping tomorrow. Seems like this week went by incredibly fast. I don't know if it's just me, but it really feels like it was just a few days ago that I just watched Episode 4. Now here we are. It's already Saturday. Episode 5 is less than 24 hours away. But I don't know if it's just me. It just this week whipped by. Maybe it's because this was finally a phenomenal episode, at least for me anyway. Definitely the best episode of the season. We have been covering every episode so far, and I've had a lot of great things to say about the first 3 episodes, and I've also had a few problems with the first 3 episodes as well in terms of pacing issues and things like that. But just for me personally, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a true return to form, House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones style. And I enjoyed it. I really much enjoyed it. This is a very pinnacle moment in the book and is a pretty big turning point in the book as well, where from this point on, the story is going to look much different and more so the players involved. So that is what I'm really looking forward to seeing in Episode 5. As much as I really enjoyed the battle, and I really did, and we are definitely going to dive into some of the dragon combat and everything else, I cannot wait to see how this shakes events up for the rest of the series, in particular for Aemond's character and the Greens. And looking forward to finding out what exactly the state of Aegon is going to be on the show compared to in the books. We know what happens in the book, but what exactly is going to happen to Aegon in the show? How will Aemond handle this going forward? Will he become Prince Regent? We have a lot to dive into this evening. So welcome one, welcome all. So glad to have each and every one of you here. Joining us as always, my partners in crime, Aldous, Snuggie, and Khaleesi. Khaleesi, how's it going this evening?
It is going. I am so excited to talk about this. I was so torn with that episode, but it broke my heart. I don't want to see the dragons fight. I want to see the dragons fight. Don't get me wrong.
You do and you don't. Yeah.
I don't. But I do.
No, I'm the same way.
Like,
I'm the exact same way. I've been on record multiple times now that I am neither Team Black nor Team Green. I am Team Dragon. Always have been Team Dragon. They are the true victims of the dance, in my opinion.
mm,
So yeah, as much as I really like seeing some of this dragon combat, it sucks seeing some of these dragons fall out of the sky like that.
oh, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking to me. I was so
It is.
torn because I love Vhagar, and it was so awesome to see Vhagar freaking battling. But then I'm like, oh, Meleys and Rhaenys. And I knew it was going to happen. But seeing it,
Yeah.
it's like a whole different experience than reading about it
is.
and looking at pictures. And
It
even
is.
Sunfire, the noise that Sunfire made, oh my God, I was devastated. I'm like, I can't do this. I
saw
can
a
do
lot of
people
people pointing
violence.
that out. Yeah, I saw a lot of people pointing out, like, oh man, poor Sunfire sounded like a wounded dog there for a minute, like a puppy crying. I was like, oh man, it kind of did. Yeah, I mean, Sunfire has been built up to be this, larger than life dragon, not in terms of size, but in terms of the most beautiful of all of the Targaryen dragons. We finally got the first small glimpse of Sunfire, and boom, Sunfire gets
Yeah.
absolutely mangled in this episode. But yeah, no, like you said, these are things that, especially for book readers, like I know Kayla and I have been reading the books for years. I know Aldous and Snug have also dived into Fire and Blood as well recently. It's reading about these events for so long, and then finally seeing them on screen. It is when it kind of does come together like this, and I feel like it really did come together well. It is pretty crazy to see, because like you said, you've been so used to reading about these events for so many years. Now you're finally watching them on screen, even though you know what's about to happen or what is probably about to happen. It still doesn't take away from the excitement of actually seeing it on screen for the first time. So I did really enjoy it. And then again, that might just be my book bias fan in me, but I really did enjoy how it kind of came together. It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun.
I think
and
it
welcome.
looks good. Like,
Yeah.
sorry. I think it looks good for what's to come in the future. If this is a glimpse of what we're going to get in the future with other dragon battles,
In
this is
terms of the
so
dragon
promising.
combat?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to break down the dragon combat, because there was some very interesting choices that they made for the dragon combat in this fight, where the actors and actresses talk a little bit about that, what went into that as well. And I really like Rhaenys' approach and how she takes her approach to melees and her style of dragon fighting. And one thing that we noticed throughout that fight that we'll definitely dive into a little bit more is you don't see melees breathing a whole lot of fire in that fight. She's much more cerebral and much more kind of deliberate in her attacks. She's not just out there breathing fire all the time. And the actress who plays Rhaenys has a very interesting statement as to why that is. So we're going to dive into all of that and more, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we got some interesting Daemon stuff to talk about as well. It was a pretty fun episode overall. Pretty fun one. But also joining us, fresh off the farm, Aldous on Orwell Lane. Welcome, my friend.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. As always, Kayla kind of set the table for what I had to say as far as, the whole episode as a whole. It felt like getting invited to a barbecue at Michael Vick's house. Like, you're excited to go because it's going to be good food. The mansion's going to be there. There's going to be a pool, going to be good parties, good music. But man, at the end of the night, there's going to be a dogfight, and you really don't want to watch that. So I liked the episode as a whole. I have issues. I'm a series guy. I like to see good pacing as a series. So I have some issues with the pacing of this episode as of the previous episodes. But as far as this episode does, they did correct a lot of the episode tone and pacing that they've had in the previous ones. Very pleased to see that. Regarding the dragon combat, I know we're going to get into this, but it was so refreshing to not see somebody just do another rote World War II air combat sequence. It was intelligent with how it was paced. And most importantly, they used the Z-axis. When you're talking about things flying, it's not just X and Y. You're going to have Z, and they used that. And it was nice to see that. Instead of just doing, 2D planar stuff, they were doing dives and crashes and rising. And it was really well done as far as the choreography on how they handled the CGI on that.
I did really enjoy that, and that was something that really kind of stood out to me as well. I was wondering how exactly would this dragon combat look like in live action, because we saw how kind of for lack of a better term, mishandled the dragon combat was in Game of Thrones. When we finally got to the end of Game of Thrones, and we're seeing the kind of smaller version of their Dance of the Dragons between the Night King's dragon and Dany and Jon, that dragon combat it just did not come across very well. I know it was a harder film considering all that was happening at night, and we had all this storm and everything obscuring the vision. But just as an audience member, it was super tough to see what was going on in that dragon fight. Who was attacking who? Which dragon was which? It was really hard to tell what was going on. Here, completely night and day difference, literally night and day difference too, if you want to get technical. They were out there fighting in broad daylight. The CGI looked pretty great for the most part in terms of the dragon combat, and the choreography that went into the dragon battle itself. That was one of the things I was most impressed with, because it wasn't just outright just blasts of fire all over the place. There was some cerebral and very deliberate attacks being made, specifically on the part of Rhaenys and Meleys. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the dragon combat. But what about you, Snug? What did you feel? And welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Yeah. I overall like the episode. I've been trying to piece together, because having just recently read the book, it's not very dramatic. It's more of I kind of look at the book as kind of the Silmarillion of the Game of Thrones series. So you get a lot more history.
Events, not much story. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's interesting to see how they're kind of putting it into dramatic form. And yeah, I think the pacing on the last episode in particular was a little slow, but I think I can see where they're kind of building it up to, and the factions and the kind of the effect on the small folk. And in this case, it was slow in the last one, but it's kind of like holding off to kind of that mutually assured destruction of using the dragons against each other. And I think that's what we saw in this last one, is that they're not going to be able, once they unleash that on each other, then they're not going to be able to escape the damage that it causes themselves. Like if the small folk, if they put the small folk in the armies and they fight, then that doesn't necessarily hurt the Targaryens, but once they get the dragons involved, then there's going to be deaths in that inner circle. And so I think that's kind of where they're bringing it to.
Yeah. And you make a really good point in terms of that mutually assured destruction. And I feel like we've seen that in the first 3 episodes, where Rhaenyra in particular has been trying to do everything in her power to avoid sending the dragons into combat. But it looks like in episode 4, we kind of reached that climactic point where both sides kind of realize, okay, this is it. There's really no turning back. There's already been too much bloodshed on both sides for there to be a peaceful resolution to this. And it seems like Rhaenyra needed to kind of know that for certainty before she sent the dragons into combat. And it seems like she finally reached that conclusion in this episode and was reluctantly sending the dragons into battle. But yeah, like you said, it really ups the stakes in terms of the collateral damage. It's one thing seeing armies of men, lay siege to castles and, burning fields and livestock and things like that. But when you add dragons into the mix, it adds just an extra level of savageness and chaos that can really, really hurt not only everyone involved, but the small folk in particular. So that is a good point. That is a very good point. And of course, as we go throughout the night and dive into all things episode 4, we want to hear from you guys in the chat as well. What did you guys think of episode 4? Did you enjoy the Battle of Rook's Rest? Did you not enjoy it? What parts were your favorite? What parts did you think maybe could have been done a little bit better? We want to hear from each and every one of you in the chat as well. And speaking of the chat, let me scroll up here and see who is hanging out with us this evening. And again, welcome one, welcome all on this fine Saturday evening as we get closer and closer to our next episode of House of the Dragon. Let's see who we got here. I see ACC in the house. What is up, ACC? It is good to see you, my friend. Got Misty in the house as well. What is up, Misty? Welcome. We got Kiwi Skirt, the mod extraordinaire, hanging out with us. What is up, Kiwi? Always good to see you, my friend. Welcome. Is up, Jason Moore. Welcome indeed. Hope everybody is having a phenomenal start to their weekend. We got Zachary Welch in the house. What is up, Zachary? Good to see you as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. See Caitlin in the house as well. What is up, Caitlin? I might have to switch to this one. Here we go. That is easier. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see, we got MKXD in the house as well. What is up, MKXD? Good to see you, my friend. ACC says, that's how I feel. And if he's not dead, he needs to hear that his mom was 1000% the warrior he could have been. Yeah, in terms of if you're speaking of Aegon, will he be dead? Will he not be dead? I am not sure. I guess we're going to have to find out. It looks like if we are to go by the episode 5 trailer, it looks like Aegon will indeed survive his nasty fall and wounds. So that'll be pretty interesting to see how that shakes everything up. We got Incognito in the house. What is up, Incognito? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Got Cheryl Baxter in the house as well. What is up, Cheryl? Good to see you, my friend. See, April May is in the house as well. What is up, April? Hope you are doing swell this evening. I see Fletcher Targaryen hanging out. Vala Magulis. Well, Vala Dohidus, right back to you as well, my friend. All men must die, but all men must serve as well. Who else is ready to find out that Alicent is pregnant? Yes, we did see that in this episode as well. And it is very funny to see just how full circle Alicent has become in particular in terms of just full-on hypocrisy from where she started out in season 1 being incredibly judgmental towards Rhaenyra and all of the choices that she was making. Now looking full circle ahead to season 2, Alicent has really become everything that she hated in Rhaenyra in season 1. She's pretty much doing all of it herself now. So yeah, we have seen the hypocrisy from Alicent really come full circle in this episode. Yeah, and the Moon Tea scene was very interesting. She totally tried playing it off like that wasn't for her. I mean, even though it seems like Larry's picked up on it really fast, though, when he entered the room. He knew. He knew. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. This episode was good, and everyone talked about it all week. Made it fly by, says Ramon Cotter. And maybe that was part of it in terms of why the week seemingly just whipped by. Again, I definitely enjoyed this episode the most out of the first 4 episodes, not just because it had some great action sequences, but I just felt like it finally had that structure of an episode where it felt like it was building up to something and the payoff was actually worth the build-up, I guess, in my opinion. Whereas in the first 3 episodes, I feel like there could have been some scenes that could have been paid off a little bit better. But yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it just helped this week fly by. That could be it. Could be it. Got my John in the house. What is up? Good evening to everybody. Well, good evening to you as well. Welcome, welcome. See, Henry Bemis is in the house. What is up, Henry Bemis? Good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. See Natalie hanging out with us as well. Hello, so excited for Sunday's episode. I am as well. I cannot wait to see where things go from here. Again, this is definitely one of the bigger turning points in the books in terms of a catalyst event that really propels the rest of the story, at least some of the tones for the rest of the story going forward. The Battle of Rook's Rest is definitely one of those defining moments in Fire and Blood, and to see how things progress from here on out will definitely be very interesting to see. We got Rockers LA in the house. What is up, Rockers? I see George Downer in the house as well. What is up, George? Good to see you. Let me scroll down a little bit more. If I missed anybody, I am terribly sorry. I try to catch as many as possible, but there's been so many awesome people showing up lately. I can't thank each and every one of you enough. Sunfire was a very young dragon. He thought Aegon was taking him out for some fresh air and a joyride, not a death trip. Most beautiful. And it is funny. I mean, Sunfire is built up a lot in the books. Every time they refer to Sunfire, it's this great golden splendid beast. So yeah, I had a lot of high hopes for Sunfire on the show, when we finally get a proper chance to actually see Sunfire. And yeah, I don't know if Sunfire knew that they were going to be getting into this. I don't know if Sunfire knew they were going to be getting into this. But yeah.
They need dragon DUIs. This is what happens when you drink and ride a dragon.
Don't drink and dragon ride. If there's anything else to be gained from this episode, it is do not drink and dragon ride. Indeed. We got Fridge Reaver in the house. Melee's died a true warrior's death. Absolutely. And like Rhaenys got to that point where, and we're gonna dive into that here in a second as well. But Rhaenys gets to a point where she easily could have escaped, but she says, "No, I am the blood of the dragon. We are going to finish this now." And I respect that. I very much respect that. It's very similar to how Rhaenys is portrayed in the books when it comes to the Battle of Rook's Rest, where she gets to a point where she knows she's completely outnumbered, knows that there's probably no chance of victory, yet she turns Melees towards her foe and charges anyway. And that was very much the Melees we got, and the Melees and the Rhaenys that we got in this episode as well.
Well, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is also the first time you're doing dragon on dragon fighting. Like, there's no knowledge base of how you even do this. Like, what's the tactic you use? I mean, and
Exactly.
To say tactic, like it's a military thing, but it's like you're in 1914 and you're one of the first people flying a plane in combat.
Flying a B-wing, yeah.
Yeah, there's absolutely no tactics. There's no, do you dive or do you climb? Do you use fire? Do you use claws and teeth? Like, nobody has any idea. Do you want to grapple or do you want to stay at a distance? So I thought that was cool how, she just kind of does something. Okay, I'm going to come down on top and try this. And then it becomes you get the sense of skill goes out the window once you start grappling. And it just becomes a size issue because, like every benefit that she had with agility of being a smaller dragon was immediately gone once Vhagar got a hold of her. And I thought that was really cool how they show, things kind of go up and down, and then it's once a bad decision is made, it's just exponentially fast, which is exactly how air combat works.
Yeah, I was very impressed with how they choreographed the fight. I wasn't sure what to expect because, like you said, there really isn't a whole lot of blueprints for stuff like this. We have one other instance of Targaryen dragons fighting Targaryen dragons in Fire and Blood before we get to the Dance of the Dragons, and that is the very, very, very short fight that is referred to the battle under the God's Eye. Not the battle above the God's Eye between Daemon and Aemond that we'll see later on in the dance. This is a different God's Eye battle that takes place a few decades earlier between Maegor the Cruel, when he is mounted on Balerion the Black Dread, and Aegon the Uncrowned, who gets utterly eviscerated by Balerion the Black Dread. That is pretty much the only dragon-on-dragon Targaryen battle that happens in the books by the time you get to the dance. And again, that battle, if you want to call it that, is over in an instance. We see Balerion the Black Dread just utterly destroy Quicksilver, I believe it is, in like 2 freaking seconds flat. So it's not really a fight. There isn't really a whole lot of dragon-on-dragon combat going on there. A lot of the dragon-on-dragon combat knowledge was probably lost in the Doom of Old Valyria. So yes, this is very much one of those things where there isn't a whole lot of blueprints laid out for it. We have that one other dragon battle that takes place a few decades prior. We have the slaughter between Vhagar and Arax at the end of season 1, which is also another pretty quick slaughter with Vhagar just taking out Arax. This was the first proper dragon-on-dragon fight in Westeros. So yeah, I thought I wasn't quite sure what to expect going into it, but I was very impressed with the end result because I really liked, again, some of the more some of the deeper thoughts that went into some of this dragon combat, how it wasn't just dragons just spitting fire all over the place. There were some deliberate and cerebral attacks being made. Again, most on the most part from Rhaenys and Melees, but it added a extra element to the dragon combat where it wasn't just breathing fire versus breathing fire. There was some tactics and strategy implemented. And I very much enjoyed that. Very much enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's dive into some of the dragon combat, and definitely let us know some of your thoughts in the comments as well. Rooftop Korean says, I saw a comment that was hilarious. Aegon was so lazy and stubborn that he didn't learn Valyrian, but taught his dragon to learn English. So true, so true. And that scene had me in tears, and I was very much thinking of you, Kayla, and you, Kiwi, in the chat when that scene was happening. I'm thinking, oh man, if only Kayla and Kiwi could have taught Aegon some proper High Valyrian. Maybe he wouldn't be making such a fool of himself right now. But that scene was hilarious. You just hear Aegon speaking this broken High Valyrian in the small council chamber, just not knowing what the hell he's saying, stringing together some just word salad. It seemed like it was that was a funny scene, very funny scene. And yeah, he teaches his dragon. He teaches his dragon English commands. No Valyrian commands. Sunfire, attack. Man, it was just very fitting for Aegon's character. So that was pretty funny.
There's literally multiple ways that you can say attack too in Valyrian. Like he could have said Idakos, Angvos, Idakos. Like
there's plenty of options out there, but it looks like good old Aegon did not take the time to properly learn High Valyrian like Aemond did, and like Rhaenys did, and the rest of the Dragon Riders did, except for him, it seems. Meleys the Red Queen died a warrior death. She did. She definitely went out. I mean, and I have some issues with the final, the final encounter between Vhagar and Meleys. It's pretty, it was definitely the shock factor is there, but after watching the episode multiple times, you start to think, we'll get into it. We'll get into it in terms of how Vhagar keeps just ambushing these freaking dragons. Vhagar is the hugest, slowest, and clumsiest dragon out there in existence, yet she still manages to pull off these incredibly smart ambush moves on both Arax and now on Meleys in this episode as well.
Hey,
which I thought was pretty funny.
You know what, though?
It is kind of like hiding an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean. Like,
she is the most battle hardened. She is
indeed
the most like the dragon that has the most battle experience. I mean, if you look at who her original rider was, and you look at Visenya, you look at Visenya's son Maegor and everything, that dragon was trained to battle. I mean, Vhagar, she put a weapon in his hand at what, 12, 13? So imagine her with this dragon, that she's had. So Vhagar, maybe she's lazy and she's whatever, but she's ready to fight at all times.
Yeah, she's Vhagar at the end of the day. You can't really take anything away from her. That is definitely certain. She is a formidable beast. But yeah, it's just funny. It's just kind of funny seeing her pull off these ambush moves left and right. It's pretty funny. I enjoyed it. I did not like it. I just thought it was kind of fun.
For a minute, I thought Aemond called her stupid, and he was going back on my shit list. I had to rewatch the episode. Yes, because I thought he called her stupid or idiot. No, he said idiot. And then he like tapped her, and I thought he was talking to her, and I didn't realize that he was like looking up in the air, and I was like, how dare he hit Vhagar? I'm like,
ooh, I didn't see that.
How dare he? Yeah, so when the horn blows and they go and shoot over to Vhagar, and Vhagar slowly rising up, and he goes, idiot.
And he says, no, Vhagar, wait, not now.
Before that, though, he says, but he says idiot first, and he taps her.
Yeah, no, he was saying idiot. He was saying idiot to his brother.
No, I know. I didn't catch that at first. I was like, he just hit Vhagar. I'm like, what a piece of shit. How dare he hit her? I'm like, he doesn't deserve her. Yeah, gotcha. I didn't catch, and then I realized, because anytime like the dragons are on screen, my focus automatically goes to the dragon. So I wasn't. Yeah. I really was just like, oh, Vhagar, this is kind of cool. Now I see how her design works in an aspect. She's hiding and looks like the earth. So I thought he hit her and called her an idiot, and I was very upset over that. I was like, he's back on my shit list.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. I actually really enjoyed this scene. I thought it was pretty interesting. We do see one scene earlier on when Crispin and the rest of the Greens first arrive in Rook's Rest. We see them chopping down a bunch of trees and stuff, clearing out, a nice space, which is seemingly what they did here for Vhagar a little bit prior to that. It was just cool. I think the scene I really liked when Vhagar kind of starts to get up, and Aemond starts saying no, not yet, and then we just see Vhagar just drop her head like right back down onto the ground. It just seemed like an old tired dog. It was
that's a great analogy,
It was kind of cute. It was kind of cute, I thought.
It was good.
It was kind of cute. You know what was awesome that I thought that was done in the beginning that kind of reminded me of like the Glass Menagerie display. Alicent, when she's playing with the dragon figure and breaks it and it shatters. And I thought it was great foreshadowing for basically what's going to happen to Aegon in battle.
Yeah.
Yes, when he knocks over the cup with the golden dragon emblem on it, very, very much foreshadowing his broken self that is about to happen in a few minutes later.
It was both of the scenes because Alicent was playing with like Viserys' little dragon at first too. She really was
drops, and we see the dragon wing crack off of it when she drops it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought that was great. And then, like you just brought up about how he knocked over the bottle and everything, the cup there.
Yeah, some good foreshadowing there. Indeed. April May says, I for real 100% believe Rhaenys went back to go for Aemond. Look at how Meleys and Rhaenys work together. They did have a chance against Vhagar. Absolutely, I think they definitely did, and it's even said that it's even stated in the book as well, where it states if Rhaenys and Meleys were to go up against Vhagar alone, she might have stood a chance, but up against Vhagar and Sunfire both, doom was all but certain. And yes, we did see some of, and that's where I talked about it a little bit in some of our previous streams, where kind of size meets skill and experience in battle. And I know on the show they kind of are portraying it like Meleys and Rhaenys have been in dragon combat before, which was pretty interesting. I mean, there hasn't been any wars for Rhaenys to fight in for her and Meleys to get any dragon combat. But I suppose they could have thrown her into one of the Dornish marches, similar to how Kristen Cole saw active combat before the dance. So that was a pretty interesting change, but I get what they were going for. They wanted to portray Meleys and Rhaenys as this kind of veteran kind of dragon riding duo who has that experience. So I was fine with that change. It didn't really bother me personally. I saw a lot of people commenting about it, but it didn't really bother me too much personally. But I liked the difference here where we saw the difference between kind of skill and strategy as opposed to just sheer overwhelming power and force, which is very much how Vhagar and Aemond kind of approach things. Vhagar is the biggest dragon in the world, the strongest dragon in the world, can very easily overpower just about anybody. So if Rhaenys were to have a chance against Vhagar, she had to be kind of methodical and very strategic in her attacks. And she tried to do that. I love the one scene in particular where when Rhaenys does decide to come back, she's out there, she could have escaped, she could have easily escaped and made it back to Dragonstone. Vhagar never would have caught Meleys. Meleys is one of the fastest dragons in the book. So they easily could have escaped and been home free and clear. But Rhaenys said, no, screw that. Let me turn around and let's finish this right now. And one of the things that I thought was a very interesting tactic was how Rhaenys goes at Vhagar, where we see just before, and it's very kind of methodical in Rhaenys' kind of movements, because before she goes after Vhagar, we see her kind of clip in her chain. She fastens herself to her saddle first and foremost, because she knows she is planning on doing this kind of maneuver where Rhaenys and Meleys are flying upside down. So instantly she straps herself deeper into the dragon saddle, and just as her and Meleys are getting ready to confront Vhagar, we very much see Meleys. She tries a very clever move, although it's unsuccessful because Vhagar snatches her up right out of the air. But you can see Rhaenys and Meleys very much try to kind of dip under Vhagar. and kind of come up behind him. At least it seemed like they were trying to. At least it seemed like Rhaenys and Meleys were trying to do that. Get up under Vhagar, come up behind her, and really do some damage. Because that's really the only way you can kind of win against a dragon that is this much bigger, this much more powerful, that can really do damage if it gets a hold of you. So Rhaenys knew that, and she knew she had to kind of approach this in a very strategic manner. So I love how Rhaenys tries flying under Vhagar, but just as she goes to pass under her, Vhagar snatches Meleys up right out of the air with her massive, massive feet, and just holds on to her for dear life, and then the fire breathing ensues. And that was another thing I really enjoyed about the dragon combat in particular. We saw a really, really good and strategic use of the claws of the dragon. It wasn't just dragon breathing fire and dragons breathing fire. There was some deliberate attacks there that were much more strategic. And Meleys did some pretty good damage with her claws in these battles. Not only did she completely mangle Sunfire when Meleys gouged Sunfire's stomach, like
that was
really,
devastating.
really bad. That was a devastating
That was
cut.
devastating. And then, you know, it was even cooler too when he was bleeding everywhere. Yeah, burnt everyone. And that was that was awesome. And that was described. It was described similarly in books that things.
And I love that. And I love how it's kind of it's just like this boiling blood falling on these soldiers, just burning them to smithereens. That was really, really cool. But you see how deep Meleys dug her talons deep into Sunfire's gut. Really, really damaged Sunfire. And then we see it is heartbreaking. You hate seeing these dragons get damaged like this, but I really enjoyed the method of offense that Rhaenys was employing here. She wasn't just out there trying to cause maximum damage and breathe fire all over the place. She was using a much more strategic approach in her attacks. So I really enjoyed the use of claws. Very, very interesting to see there. But yeah, poor Sunfire didn't stand a chance against Meleys.
Oh yeah. This whole battle, my heart was just like, you know, I hate to see the dragons get hurt. I'm like, I like watching, but it tears me apart. I'm like, the dragons, can't we all just get along for the dragons' sake at least, you know? No. I know it's not possible. And then it's like the poor, like everyone that's down on the ground there fighting, poor everybody down there, because between getting bled on and burnt to death, they're getting trampled by Vhagar at one point. Yeah, you got to worry about arrows coming down and smacking you in the head. There's a lot going on. So I mean, a siege in and of itself is incredibly chaotic. Then you throw 3 freaking dragons flying overhead on top of it. Yeah, utter chaos. Rhaenys wanted to end the war here. She really did. Yeah, you could see, Rhaenys and Meleys very much had a chance to easily escape, and they thought, no, we're finishing this. And that was something that even Eve Bess, the actress who plays Rhaenys, even remarked on. But she was asked this in an interview that, why didn't Rhaenys escape when she had a chance to escape? And Eve Bess said, this is Rhaenys. Yes, she easily could have escaped, but she thought, no, I'm going to turn around and we're going to finish this. And very much compared it to that kind of samurai mindset, that final last stand warrior mindset is where Eve Bess was kind of portraying Rhaenys in that final scene there. And definitely comes across like that. Again, it's a very heroic sacrifice, knowing that she's outmatched, knowing that she probably stands a decent chance of dying if she does engage Vhagar one-on-one. She still went ahead and did it because she thought, nope, let's finish this now. And I appreciate that. It was a pretty good send-off for Rhaenys and Meleys, I thought. I mean, I think she wanted to go underneath and pull Aemond off of Vhagar's back. That's what I think that she was attempting to do.
Yeah, she might have. She might have wanted to come up behind him and snatched him up right off the back. I mean, it's possible. It seems like she was trying to pass under Vhagar, but it looks like she was maybe trying to pass under Vhagar so she could come up behind Vhagar, and then maybe she could have had a chance of snatching Aemond right off of her back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking she was trying to do. But also, I think like with earlier things in the episode, Rhaenys, like, yeah, let's finish it. But also it's like, fuck it. I don't have anything else. Like, there's nothing left to lose. I mean, because of
A
the
lot of
whole
people were
exchange for
saying
her
that
and
as well.
Corlys.
The whole Alyn
And
Velaryon
Alan,
thing.
yeah,
the whole Aemond of
that
Hull,
threw
like,
me off a little bit. I was like, whoa.
a lot of people were pointing to that and saying that maybe that was a reason for Rhaenys just not wanting to live anymore. She was kind of just throwing it all in at that point. And I can kind of see that argument, but the way that Rhaenys reacted to Alyn of Hull, knowing that it was Corlys's bastard, and knowing that she was more upset with Corlys for hiding the kid than she was for the kid actually existing. So there's been a lot of comparisons between Rhaenys and how she reacted to Corlys's bastard and how Catelyn kind of reacts to Jon Snow. I saw a lot of people comparing the two, and they're two very different circumstances, so it's kind of hard to compare those two. But I did see a lot of people making that argument that maybe Rhaenys was just kind of fed up. She was kind of at her end, so she didn't mind risking it all. And I suppose the Alyn Velaryon thing could be reason for that, but I don't know. Rhaenys just doesn't seem like she's that reckless. It seems like the choice to kind of go all in, that kamikaze attitude, it seems like that arose during the battle. Maybe she went into it from the start, kind of not having maybe less cares because of the Alyn Velaryon thing. I suppose it's possible, but I don't know. I wasn't really picking that up myself, but it's possible though. Who knows? Who knows? Her and Corlys were together for a great many years, and I guess it comes down to the point where when did Rhaenys find out about Alyn and Adam?
That's
Because
what
when she mentions it in this episode, it seems like it's something she's known about for a very long time. So it didn't seem like it was this kind of new shock to her. That's why I'm having trouble believing that this Alyn Velaryon thing caused her to be suicidal. It seemed like it was something she already well knew about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I am kind of curious to find out. I thought that interaction was very odd.
Very interesting, wasn't it?
It was interesting, but it was also odd. I was trying to figure out what was the purpose of it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm not really sure either. It didn't quite make sense. I'm not sure how it's supposed to link in. It seems like he's a sailor, so wouldn't she assume that he might have, something in every port to
any port in a storm, right?
Says.
Yeah,
he's a sailor. He goes from port to port.
Right, and it's not like the Targaryens are
Yeah, the family's not renowned for their chastity and loyalty.
Right, exactly.
This is true.
So it shouldn't surprise her necessarily, unless she just didn't like that he kept it a secret from her. Maybe that's what it is that he didn't.
I think that was
no one likes secrets.
Yes. Yeah.
There's not a single person that likes a secret being kept.
No, especially a big secret like that between, husband and wife. I mean, Rhaenys and Corlys have been together for years, and you very much get the sense that they did have a very strong foundation in terms of their relationship. You look at a lot of the relationships on House of the Dragon, and a lot of them can be very toxic, kind of, for lack of a better term, from start to finish. But you look at the kind of just pure relationship that Rhaenys and Corlys had. Mm-hmm. That I could definitely understand, Snug. Maybe the act of Corlys hiding this from her is probably something that hurts her more than the bastard actually existing in and of itself. That I definitely can get behind.
Yeah. Well, and these are all arranged marriages too, so it's not like they have a choice in it for the most part. So you've got relationships that are, I'm not gonna, like, they're just bad. Like they're poor match, like Leonor, right? Poor match. Like that, those two never.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna work.
Right.
For a variety of reasons, but it's just not gonna work. So both sides are out fooling around. This one, they jived, man. They might not have been in love with each other, but there was that, respectful love. There might have been a little bit of passion at some point.
Yeah.
But it had settled into a mutual respect, and it's not tolerating. It's they cared about each other. If it wasn't on that true passionate, our hearts are one type love, it was they've been together for a long time. It's beyond friendship. They truly care about each other, and it does have that semblance of all you had to do was tell me, like just let me know.
Yeah.
It kind of had that of it wasn't even disappointment. It was just like almost like a little woundedness. That you wouldn't just be honest with me. And I appreciated that. The dialogue in that sequence was really sharp. I liked that.
Yeah. It was good dialogue. It was very good dialogue. It was a very well acted scene between Rhaenys and Alyn. And again, yeah, you get the sense that, like you said, Rhaenys was probably a little bit more upset with the fact that he kept this from her, and it seemed like she was upset that he was, keeping Alyn, as she says, quote unquote, under the dock instead of raising him up. So I definitely think that will be those words that Rhaenys said to Corlys, I do have a feeling, at least on the show version, will play a major part. And Alyn and Adam becoming Velaryons at one point instead of just hulls and bastards.
Well,
I do think those words are going to stick with Corlys.
That's going to be the reasoning why he does raise them up for sure.
Yep, she's given him the impetuous now that she's fallen. That's the last ringing thing in his ear. Right, so he's going to do it to honor her because it's what she implied. So it's like his last great move, which again, I mean, it's great, great foreshadowing of why and character motivation. Really well done in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah. It was.
I mean, she kind of too, like when she is flying with Meleys, I think it was like before the end where she goes in, she kind of like touches the water. And it's kind of
a
like
lot of people thought that was a goodbye to Corlys.
It is. I feel like it was symbolic of a goodbye because she knew.
Yeah.
You got to know when you're going to war with dragons. You got to know anytime you go out there with that, it could be your time.
Could be your last. Yeah, could be your last. But yeah, in terms of her kind of going into this thing with that suicidal mindset, I tend to agree with Caitlin here. I think she's just a woman who would be willing to die for her family. I really, that's kind of the sense that I got as well. I definitely agree with that. I don't think maybe she necessarily went into this battle, maybe I get the feeling she went into it willing to die if she absolutely had to, but I don't think she went into this battle with an intention of dying by any means. So I don't really see that suicidal kind of recklessness from Rhaenys, but I do see the willingness to die for her family, which is a big difference between the two. There's a big difference between being suicidal and being willing to die for your family, and that's what I saw. I saw Rhaenys willing to die for the people that she loves. So that's kind of how I see it.
I think some of that suicidal might come from the end when she has the full acceptance of the moment, and there's no fear. And I think that's the difference between somebody like Aegon, who, in his head, it's the classic trope, right? It's the young buck that he's grown up. He's heard nothing but stories of glory and battle. He wants blood, and he wants to be a hero. And yet he has never experienced combat. He doesn't know the terror. He doesn't know the agony. He doesn't know what it's like for the person next to you to just be liquefied in a moment.
Right.
She has seen this. She's experienced it, and she just accepts it that it's her time. And I think that's the difference between the two. I don't think it's a suicidal move. I think it's an old warrior that knows their time is up, and they accept it.
Yeah. Yeah, very much.
And there's so much honor in that too, and that's one of the things that I think the book maybe does a little bit better than the show is the honorable side of the Targaryen, and that there is that it's imbued within them that they have that. And I think this is your first kind of glimpse of that in this show, is a little bit with Velaris, but here so much more. It's because it's in combat. You see it that it's just an acceptance. There's no fear. It's just, this is my time, and we go. And especially since there's a bond between the dragon too, and when the dragon goes, you can see it affects her.
That's one thing that broke my heart completely, that scene. But that's one thing though that I wish that they did explore a little bit more before this episode, or at the beginning of this episode, was Rhaenys' bond with Meleys, and more of Aegon with Sunfire. We saw Aegon like boop Sunfire, and it was like super cute. He was like drunk and walking up to her. And
Sunfire boots him on the chest, and
that was so cute. That was so cute, and he all smiled, and like, you just see their bond for that quick moment. And I would have liked to see a little bit more of their bonds, maybe a Rhaenys flashback. But
we didn't get enough. I mean, because Sunfire is kind of built up to be this, one of the main dragons. Like, Sunfire still goes on to do so much stuff in the Dance of the Dragons. So I very much am expecting Sunfire to survive on the show as well. But yes, I agree, Kayla. It would have been nice to see some more of those kind of bonding scenes between Aegon and Sunfire, preferably at the end of season 1. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people had a big problem with that Rhaenys and Meleys scene at the end of season 1, where Rhaenys and Meleys just burst up from under the dragon pit, which is miraculously all fixed. It seems like now in season 2, it doesn't seem like I didn't see any massive hole in that dragon pit floor when Sunfire was approaching Aegon. They certainly, they got the handyman on that lickety split. It seems.
Best carpenters around.
Yeah, quick turnaround, very quick turnaround. I need to hire them for some labor on my job sites. Damn, get jobs done in half the time. But no, I was very much. I think that's why a lot of people were hoping that, or at least were a little upset with that Rhaenys and Meleys scene, considering in the book that's when we get that really awesome scene between Aegon and Helena. Actually, both of them mounting both of their dragons and flying around King's Landing like 3 times, and then landing at the Red Keep. That could have been the perfect kind of establishing shot to kind of showcase the bond that Aegon has with Sunfire. Because a lot of people were saying in my comment section, and I kind of agree with it to a certain extent, that Sunfire might have been the only one that truly unconditionally loved Aegon.
I feel like that's very true.
I kind of, I saw that and I kind of thought about it for a while. I marinated on it, and I thought I think there's something to that. We do see how Aegon's family treats him like he is an afterthought. Aegon being the heir is very much just a thing of convenience rather than them believing in Aegon himself. It's more of a power control thing than them actually believing Aegon will be a just and fair ruler. So Aegon has been kind of surrounded by family his whole life, but it's been family that's been kind of cold and distant. We've seen the relationship between him and his brother has never been the best, if this episode is any indication. And the behind the scenes features for this episode was very telling, where the actor Tom Glynn-Carney says that in that moment when Aemond does blast him out of the sky, that he very much feels like it was on purpose, and that in that moment, all of Aegon's worst fears about Aemond came true. So it seems like Aegon never really had the best relationship in terms of that unconditional love. And we saw how distant of a mother Alicent was compared to how loving and how caring of a mother that Rhaenyra was with her children. Alicent was very distant with Aegon. Wasn't that very kind of caring and nurturing mother. So it didn't seem like Aegon had a whole lot of just, people that were outright loyal to him, but he did have his dragon at the end of the day. He had that bond with Sunfire. So the more I kind of thought about it, the more I started to agree with everybody in the comment section saying that maybe Sunfire might have been the only one who ever truly loved Aegon. So I feel like it would have been nice for them to establish that relationship between Aegon and his dragon a little bit earlier on, so we can kind of see just what that bond meant to Aegon, where that's really the only unconditional love he has.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, do you see? I mean, you don't really see any positive relationships. Everyone seems to be out for themselves. So, with the exception maybe of Corlys and Rhaenyra, they seem to actually have some, more of
they seem to have a
more
healthy
bond.
one.
Yeah, but everyone else is like looking to backstab the other, or just basically grab what they can grab for themselves, and they don't really care about their family members, their spouses, or their kids even in most cases.
Yeah.
So,
It was a very interesting scene, and I feel like that's why I think season 1 not only would it have been a better scene overall, but I think story-wise, narratively, it would have been a better scene, a better choice to establish that connection between Aegon and Sunfire in that Dragon Pit scene, as opposed to having this random melee scene bursting out from beneath the floor. It was a very strange scene, to say the least. But yeah, let's see what the chat is saying. Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say of all this, and definitely sound off in the comment sections. What did you guys think about this battle? What did you guys think about the bond between Aegon and Sunfire, the bond between Rhaenys and Meleys? We saw some very strong bonds between Dragon and Dragon Rider in this episode in particular. Definitely sound off in the comment section. What did you guys think of the episode? April May says, Sunfire loves Aegon. Even when Cole finds them, Sunfire has his tail almost wrapped almost wrapped as if to guard Aegon from Aemond, because Aemond had his sword out. Sunfire did not fall in that position. That's an interesting observation, because yes, when we do finally get to Aegon in that scene, and we finally actually get to see the kind of shape that he is in at the end of the episode, we do see Sunfire is kind of wrapped right around Aegon's body. Now, is that just the way that they accidentally fell, or is that maybe Sunfire doing its best to still try to protect Aegon? You might be onto something there, April.
No.
You might be onto something there. I didn't really pay any mind to that, to the position, but now that you mention it, could this have been a last-ditch attempt for Sunfire to try and protect Aegon even still? Now, it's definitely possible. I like that.
That's what I
very
felt.
possible.
That's
I
exactly
like
what I felt.
Could be,
That's
yeah.
a very protective stance there that the dragon's in. There's no way the dragon just felt like that. The dragon wrapped himself around Aegon to protect him and shield him as best as he could. That's what I felt.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I think you guys might
This
be
makes
onto
me
something
so
there.
sad.
Mhm.
You know, it just makes me
is,
so
yeah.
sad. And I do appreciate that
man.
Sunfire was sparkly, that they made Sunfire
do.
sparkle.
Well,
I really
actually, this is-
appreciated that.
Well, this photo, actually, I actually went in and tweaked this photo a little bit. I played with the contrast and the saturation a little bit. Sunfire didn't look nearly this sparkly, unfortunately.
Oh.
This is the photo that I
Oopsie.
edited. I edited this photo to make Sunfire look sparkly. This is what Sunfire actually looked like in the episode. If we go in the actual episode without any editing enhancements, without me playing with the contrast and the saturation, this is what that shot really looks like on the show.
On the boob
see.
scene, he looked nice and sparkly, I thought.
Yeah, in some. But here's the show shot. See how it's much more muted, much more dim, not much gold.
Yeah. I can see
I
see where the
that one.
sparkles were that you enhanced. Definitely.
Yeah.
But do you know what,
I
though?
enhanced it a little bit.
He doesn't look like a chicken nugget. Like, I thought, with that blast from Vhagar, which Aemond, holy shit. I mean,
Yeah.
Damn, devious.
Yeah, Aemond,
Devious. I'm
Aemond
a
saw
little
an
torn on that.
opportunity, and Aemond saw an opportunity and absolutely took it. And that's another thing. I would love to get everybody's opinion in the chat on this as well, because this has been something that I've seen develop a lot in my comment section ever since I dropped my episode 4 review, and I've seen kind of almost it split down the middle, with a lot of people thinking that Aemond definitely did it on purpose, and some people thinking that Aegon just happened to be collateral damage, and that Aemond just wasn't really thinking. But let us know in the comment section, what do you think? Do you think Aemond deliberately tried to blast both Aegon and Rhaenys out of the sky, or do you think that Aegon was just a collateral damage? I think it was purpose. I think it was very much on purpose. I feel that in this moment, Aemond saw an opportunity to take 2 pieces off the board, for lack of a better term, and he took it. He took it. He saw an opportunity and he took it. I don't think Aemond came into this battle hoping for anything like that, because it seemed like Aemond was very upset when Aegon arrived on the battlefield in the first place. So it didn't look like Aemond was counting on Aegon to show up. But when he did show up, it seems like he took that opportunity to see if he could get 2 pieces off the board. So I very much think Aemond did it on purpose. But what about you guys? Kayla, you think he did it on purpose, or do you think it was just collateral damage?
Hell yes, he did that on purpose. With the way they shot it and everything, he straight up was like, Dracarys. Like, your brother is right there. Like, you know where that flame's gonna go. He could have,
especially a flame as hot and powerful as Vhagar's. We know how powerful the flame gets the older the dragon gets. So a blast from Vhagar is going to be much more devastating than a blast from Sunfire. So Aemond had to know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Come on now. We know he's smart. Aegon, not so much. Aemond, we know he's very smart. So to me, it was like there's a different strategy he could have done if it was just him trying to take out Meleys. especially with Aegon on the other side with Sunfire.
Yeah,
he
he
could
could
have
have
came
gone
up
in
from
without
under,
fire.
or
He could have
whatever
gone in
the
the same
case.
way that Rhaenys did. Rhaenys was very much utilizing the claws and the talons and things like that. If he solely just wanted to get Rhaenys off of Aegon, he could have easily went in there and had another form of attack that wasn't fire. That is a good point, Kayla.
And then to me, it kind of throws me off a little bit, just because Aemond is supposed to be loyal.
In the book, you
He's
mean?
supposed to be.
Yeah, he's supposed to be
And
loyal.
that's what's great. Well, that's what's great about Fire and Blood. Fire and Blood's told from that kind of unreliable narrator standpoint, and it's told years after the events actually occurred. So this is just, and this is very much a kind of, green favorable accounting of the events in particular, it seems, as well in the book. So yeah, I mean, although it seems like Aemond is portrayed as loyal in the book, who knows what really happened.
But see, now this makes me question more things about Daemon. And
okay,
I'll explain when you get over to Harrenhal why, because you know.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to do some Harrenhal stuff. Yeah. Once we're done breaking this battle down, we are definitely going to talk about Daemon and his Harrenhal stuff. There's a lot going on.
He blasted his brother on purpose. He was still mad over the brothel, and to me, that's kind of petty, and that's weak. That's kind of petty and weak. Because, just knowing me,
it's one thing to hold a small grudge and get back on your brother in a small way. Like in the council meeting, for instance, the way that he's kind of challenging Aegon in that council meeting, not really listening to him. That's the kind of level of payback that you can kind of understand between siblings, not blasting him out of the freaking sky with dragon fire.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, holy shit.
Is he next in line if something happens to Aegon? Is he next in line?
Yes, he would be next in line.
I mean, he clearly thinks
because they're leaving out a son.
Well, even in the book, Maelor is, even if Maelor was on the show, Maelor is way too young. He's still a baby. So even in the book, Aemond is the next in line to kind of take over in Aegon's stead.
He'd be regent, but he wouldn't be king, right? Because the king's son
I don't think he'll be king on the show either. I think he'll be regent. I think they'll probably go the regent route. But yes, he wouldn't be king. Technically, Maelor would be the direct heir. But since Maelor is so young, that would make Aemond the prince regent and the protector of the realm. So I get the feeling they'll probably go a similar route on the show, where they'll just make Aemond the protector of the realm and prince regent, but they won't really call him king, because he never styles himself king in the book either. He does start wearing the crown of Aegon the Conqueror, which he even says that, which he is even heard to remark in the book that it looks better on him than it ever did on his brother Aegon. But he never styles himself king or anything like that. He very much refers to himself as protector of the realm. So I think the show will probably go a similar route.
I think we'll see some of that tomorrow. Tomorrow.
We will find out tomorrow.
See some of that.
We will find out tomorrow. And actually, speaking of, we do have a few stills. We will come right back to all of this here in 1 second. But we do actually have some nice stills from episode 5 as well. They have already released some interesting photos, and we have this one of what appears to be Aemond and Helaena standing in the throne room. I cannot freaking wait to see this fucking scene. I don't know what's going on here, but I cannot wait to see this scene between Aemond and Helaena, because I get the feeling Helaena knows exactly what Aemond did. Helaena is a dragon dreamer on the show, after all. She does have dreams and visions of the future. So I would not be surprised in the slightest if Helaena knows exactly what Aemond did. So I cannot wait to see this scene in particular right here. I cannot freaking wait. But let's get back to the chat. Let me see what you guys are saying as well. Did he do it deliberately? Missy says Aemond was totally deliberate. I would have done the same. LOL. We got Citizen Ronan. What is up, Citizen Ronan? I have no idea about any of this stuff. Just saying, what's up? Well, what is up, Citizen Ronan? Good to see you, my friend. If you ever have a chance, man, get into House of the Dragon. You will absolutely love it. Watch House of the Dragon and come back and hang out with us next Sunday, my friend. I promise you will love it.
And make some dragon art.
Yeah. And make some dragon art. Yeah, we could get some phenomenal dragon art from Citizen Ronan as well. Citizen Ronan is a phenomenal artist. Dude is just absolutely bananas. Aemond was 100% trying to kill Aegon. He wanted to be king. That's the difference between Aemond and Daemon. Yes, and we did see those kind of wants and desires get made known very early, even very early on at the end of season 1, where we get that scene between Aemond and Kristen Cole, where Aemond specifically says, I am the brother who spends all day, training with the sword, studying the histories. I'm the one who mastered the largest dragon in the world. It is I who should be king. So Aemond very much thought, at least show Aemond, very much thought that he was the better version, or the better, the more worthy of the two brothers to be king, considering their upbringing and the discipline difference between the two. So yeah, now he's got his shot. Now he's got his shot. His wing was totally engulfed. He was burning to straight Vhagar blast, and Aegon knows too. And that is one of the more interesting things here as well. And I love how Aegon very much knows, and I really enjoyed hearing that kind of line from actor Tom Glencarney, who plays Aegon, stating how in that moment all of Aegon's fears about Aemond came true. So yes, it seems like the way that they're playing it on the show, Aegon definitely thinks that Aemond did it on purpose. So I cannot wait to see how this kind of affects their relationship. It seems like Aegon is probably going to be laid up for a while. He is very severely damaged, at least if the book is any indication, with, dozens of broken bones, armor fused to his skin. He's in really bad shape after this battle.
Messed up.
Yeah.
He's messed up. He's messed up. So I imagine he's going to be out of commission for a while. But when he does wake up, that is when it's going to start getting very interesting. When we see when Aegon wakes up, how much is he going to remember? Is he going to remember all of the events of the battle? Is he going to remember Aemond just absolutely having no regard for his safety and blasting him out of the sky? That is one of the things I am really looking forward to seeing, is how does this affect the side of the Greens going forward when Aegon does wake up and not only remembers, but if Aegon does remember and he wakes up, how is everybody going to react to this? I imagine Aegon will probably tell Alicent and the rest of the Greens that Aemond blasted him out of the sky on purpose. This could potentially be the beginning of the end and the undoing for the side of the Greens if this secret does get out. And again, I get the feeling Helena probably already knows.
It's all Alicent's fault. If she didn't say what she said to Aegon, didn't approach it the way that she did, the way that she parented, and was like, do nothing and make him like feel like he's worthless and a pawn and everything, then he wouldn't have hopped up on Sunfire, freaking drunken dragoning, and
drunk dragon riding.
Drunk dragoning. Like, that's exactly what that was.
Yep. So, and we saw that all throughout the episode, and we really saw Aegon kind of build up to a crescendo of anger, to the point where he kind of just, like you said, he knocks over the freaking dragon cub, which was a huge foreshadowing of both the dragon and Aegon being broken in a horrific fall. But yes, we see,
the little statue. Yeah, she broke her son, just like she broke Viserys'.
Just like she broke Viserys.
Well, Viserys' little dragon play
which
toy.
Was also another callback. That was another callback to season 1 as well, because if we remember in season 1, Viserys dropped one of his little dragon pieces, and it was actually Alicent who kind of brought it back to him after she had it fixed. So yeah, it was kind of coming full circle there, where now Alicent is the one breaking the dragon this time.
I wonder if it was the same piece.
Very symbolic.
That's what I wanted to look into, if it was the same piece.
Oh, that I don't know. Like, if it was the exact same piece, that'd
be
interesting.
I want to look and I have to look back and see. But right now, I'm going through all the stuff about Septa and Barth. So
I know. I've been ever since those George comments. Yes.
I've been going through all. I know I could look on the internet. I know I could look on the internet and get all the information, but I have to do it by hand.
It's funner to dive into the book. Yeah, I like doing both. I'll dive into the book and I'll do online research when it comes to researching topics like this. But yes, ever since George made those comments about Septa and Barth getting most of it right, I've been going over all of my Septa and Barth lore, and I'm actually planning to do a Septa and Barth video. I know you've been wanting to see some more history and lore videos on the channel, Kayla. You are going to get your wish, because I have a very in-depth Septa and Barth video that I am planning. And if you want to collaborate on it, I'd be more than welcome to get your help on it, because I know you're just as knowledgeable on it as I am, if not more so.
I
But
think
yeah, Septon
everybody
Barth,
would like
man,
to
he's
see
got some
more
of the
lore
best freaking
stuff.
theories.
You have like the best lore videos, and I think anyone here in your chat would say the same thing. I think they would appreciate. I can't speak for everyone in the chat, but I feel like this chat, everyone would appreciate your lore videos, and the people that have not watched them, go back
check 'em
and start
out. Yeah.
watching them. Check them out. They're incredible. So
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get back into some of the lore videos as well. I've been super swamped with covering the episodes, but now that I'm kind of getting a better handle on it now in terms of the format, I feel like I can cut out some time where I'm definitely going to start doing some more lore videos. And yes, I have a really fun video on Septon Barth I'm planning on doing, because that got me very excited when I saw those comments from George saying that Septon Barth got most of it right. I'm like, okay, all right. Time to dive back in. What are Septon Barth's theories? I know he's right about the origin of dragons. What else is he right about?
So I've
But
already
be on the lookout for that. We're going to dive into all things Septon Barth on that video.
I have so much stuff I can send you that from like the pages I've been taking pictures of and highlighting in my phone. Like literally taking a picture of the book, highlighting, because I'm not going to highlight my damn books, even though I got like several copies. I'm not going to ruin my books. So I just have a Dance with Dragons to go through at this point.
Ooh, awesome.
So Fire and Blood's done. Clash, like I went through everything. Storm of Swords had something. A Feast for Crows had something. There's some interesting stuff where how he's mentioned and how it ties into things within Fire and Blood that were mentioned. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. Yeah, we're definitely gonna dive into it. I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it. Rooftop Korean asks, how far away is Rook's Rest by Dragon from King's Landing? Unless he was white girl wasted, he would have been sobered up by then. It's actually pretty close, and that's one thing we even hear. Them mentioning is that King's Landing isn't too far away, and that Dragonstone isn't too far away. So they really wanted to be on the lookout for dragons incoming. So because Rook's Rest it's a small kind of coastal keep, and yes, it's not too far away from King's Landing and Dragonstone that they can't get there in a decent amount of time. Certainly not enough time for him to sober up. He probably would have still been drunk when he arrived, I would imagine. This is something that's going to be very interesting to see next week as well. Absolutely crazy description. I want to see Corlys finding out about his wife. I hope they address this in tomorrow's episode. I do too as well. And this is something that's going to be just incredibly heartbreaking. Because again, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, when it comes to a lot of the couples in particular on House of the Dragon and in Fire and Blood, there's not that many couples that you really want to just root for. There's a lot of really screwed up and toxic relationships in this time period. But when you look at just the kind of the pure relationship that Corlys and Rhaenys did have, yes, this is going to be a devastating moment for Corlys. Rhaenys was everything to Corlys. They have been together for so long. They had their ups and downs, of course, like any married couple would. But they truly loved each other and had each other's back at the end of the day, which is not something every Westerosi couple really has. So yeah, seeing Corlys's reaction to the death of Rhaenys is going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they play that on the show compared to how it's kind of described in the book. Because he's going to be devastated. I mean, how do you guys think he's going to handle this? You think he's going to go off the handle, or do you think he's going to kind of how will Corlys handle this, you think? Will it break him, or will he continue on?
Plot some revenge, I'd guess. Strengthen his resolve and figure out a way he can get back at him.
Yeah, this is a slow burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been pretty.
It's going to be hard.
You've seen a couple of moments where he's never really lost it. I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to season 1 a little bit. It's been a while since I watched him, but I don't recall any moment where he lost his composure completely. He seems more of a measured. Right? I think it'll be a measured response.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think I think the initial shock might have him reeling for a time, but I think he'll be able to kind of pull himself back from that fairly quick. I mean, he does seem like he is kind of has a good control of his faculties, for lack of a better term, I guess. But I do think it's going to hit him hard at first, for sure. BB is currently
Well, and
reading Fire and Blood. Sorry, go ahead.
What about the daughters, right? Bela and
Yeah, Bela and Rhaena. How are they going to take it as well? Yeah, in particular, Bela, because Bela was very close to Rhaenys. Bela spent a good amount of her time fostering at Driftmark. So while Rhaena spent a good amount of her time with Daemon and Rhaenyra on Dragonstone, Bela spent a lot of her time with Rhaenys and Corlys on Driftmark. So yeah, I think this is going to hit Bela very hard. Bela and Rhaenys were super close. Super close. So yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. BB is currently reading Fire and Blood, currently reading through Jaehaerys the First Reign. He and Aegon the First were great. Everybody else is crazy as hell.
Oh man, you're in for it.
You're not half
You are
wrong,
in
my
for
friend.
it. Wait
You
till
are
you start
not
getting to the
half
Blackfire rebellions.
Well, I can't. That stuff we're gonna have to wait for Fire and Blood Part 2. I cannot wait to get deeper into that stuff.
Oh my
once we get that
goodness!
second Fire and Blood.
Need answers. I need answers.
Yeah, I need a lot
Give me
of
more
answers.
Brynden Rivers. Give me more Bloodraven. I need to
The
know.
Blackfire Rebellion, like especially the first Blackfire Rebellion,
Oh man,
that is an event that deserves its own show.
It does.
And that's why we could hear a few of the tellings of it in the Dunk and Egg series, perhaps. But I feel like the Blackfire Rebellion is such a major event that it warrants having its own show, not just being a footnote in a different show, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But that is awesome, BB. I'm glad you are reading Fire and Blood. I hope you are enjoying it. And yes, Jaehaerys parts they're definitely some of the more uneventful parts. But if you are like a diehard A Song of Ice and Fire fan like I am, I actually really enjoyed the Jaehaerys chapters. We really get a sense of why he's called the Conciliator. So I know not everybody likes his his portion of Fire and Blood because there's not a whole lot of action that goes on, but I really enjoyed his part. I thought it was fun reading about the reign of Jaehaerys the First. 55 years Jaehaerys reigned for, not a single war, the longest Targaryen reign in history. The dude, he did it right.
Although there were some issues with him.
Oh yeah, he wasn't perfect by any means.
he definitely was not I mean, that says a lot, though.
Yeah,
they're all mad Targaryens.
They're all bad. They're all mad at the end of the day.
Yes.
But yeah, Greek girl says this is going to hit him hard, and I do think it is. Yeah, I think it'll definitely hit him hard at first. Corlys, I don't think his response is true to how they retend in text. He becomes her hand. He will be mad and hurt and probably even talk shit, but he knows his wife. And I guess that's going to be interesting as well. Will it have the same kind of outcome on the show as it does in the book? Because if we remember on the show, Rhaenyra has still yet to choose a hand of the queen. She does not have a hand. Not in season 1. She hasn't chosen a hand yet. Rhaenyra is still without a hand of the queen. So could this potentially be the catalyst that Corlys gets offered the job position under? Maybe. Maybe it could very well lead to. Yeah, no one's asked for it, and she. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, and it was very similar to how in this episode we saw Aegon choose his very first Master of Whisperers. Apparently Viserys went all, decades of his reign never once having a Master of Whisperers. And we saw Aegon give that position to Larys in this episode. In the previous episode, excuse me. So yeah, Rhaenyra will probably have to choose a hand of the queen at some point, and yeah, maybe this will be the kind of circumstance of events that leads to Corlys getting the position.
I believe so.
Yeah, could be. Why hasn't the Crown done anything about the Corlys blockade yet? They have to already seen it coming. Yes, and I think we are going to see that play out over these next few episodes in particular. They did actually drop a very small teaser trailer that is teasing the rest of the season just yesterday, actually. And in one scene, you actually see what looks to be the Triarchy fleet heading into the Gullet. And I get the feeling that's going to come very much at the end of season 2. I don't think we'll actually see the Battle of the Gullet itself in season 2. I know Ryan Condal has teased that there will be one other big battle. I don't think we're going to get as far as the Gullet, but I do think we could see a swapping of events where maybe they have the fish feed, the Red Fork, or something like that take place before the Gullet on the show compared to in the books. Because when we look at the taking of Harrenhal, the taking of Harrenhal happens in the book long before even Blood and Cheese happens.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, and in here on the show, Daemon is only just now taking Harrenhal in the previous episode. So they are kind of swapping events in the timeline. So although I don't think we will get the Gullet in season 2, it does look like we are at least going to be getting one more big battle. And I think that could either be the fish feed, or it might even be the battle where Pate the Longleaf takes out Jason Lannister. I think it's going to be one of those two. I don't think we're going to see the Battle of the Honeywine in season 2.
No, I don't think it will be Honeywine.
It looks like they're saving Daemon for season 3. But I do think we could potentially see Pate the Longleaf, and maybe it could be that battle between the Lannisters and the Blacks. That might be the second big battle that we'll see in season 2, perhaps, maybe. I guess we'll see. I guess we shall see. But yeah, because Ryan Condal has teased that there will be 2 big battle sequences in season 2, and again, I just don't think I get the feeling they're going to save the Gullet for season 3.
Red Fork.
The Gullet.
Was that Red Fork?
Yeah.
It was Red Fork,
the Red
right?
Fork. The Red Fork and the Fish Feed are the same name for 2 names for the same battle. But the one before that takes place right before that is the one where Pate the Longleaf takes out Jason Lannister. I think that might be the one we might see here on the show.
I thought that. I'm trying to think. What was it? Lakeshore? Was it Lakeshore?
Battle at the Lakeshore. Yes,
I think it's Lakeshore.
I think it's going to. Okay. I think it might be that one. It's either going to be Fish Feed or Battle at the Lakeshore. Those are probably the 2 most likely ones in terms of battles that they can kind of swap and have take place before the Gullet, and it won't really mess up the sequence of the rest of the story. They could easily put the Fish Feed or the Fish Feed Fish
Feed and Lakeshore are the same battle, to be honest.
Fish Feed.
Now that I'm thinking of it, but I always call it Battle by the Lakeshore.
Yeah. Again, Battle of the Honeywine, I definitely think they're going to save that one for 3. I'm not expecting to see Daemon. We do have the retaking of Rook's Rest, which is kind of a smaller skirmish. We have the Battle of the Red Fork, the Battle of Aegon Hall. So I think it'll be between those 2. Hopefully we might get the Red Fork. I think the Red Fork will probably be the easiest one that they can kind of swap in, and it won't really affect the story too much, even though it does take place after the Gullet in the book. I think they could probably pull off the Red Fork in season 2 and have that be the kind of big battle that they're also going to do. Because again, Ryan has promised us that we have 2 huge battles coming in season 2, Rook's Rest being one of them, and the second one still to be determined. But yeah, it could be the Red Fork. It could be the Red Fork, the Fish Feed, as it were, which does notoriously go on to be, I think, the bloodiest land battle in all of the Dance of the Dragons in terms of what happens. Them being pushed up against the river mouth like that and just getting absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah, it's probably either Red Fork. Pate was like a squire, I believe.
He's a squire,
and
yeah.
And he mortally he literally like wrecks Jason Lannister.
He wrecks Jason Lannister.
He wounds him badly.
Yep.
So it.
Yeah, that could be.
I'm all for another battle. I was happy to see
too.
a little bit of like the aftermath of Duskendale. I would have preferred to see the whole thing, but
and throw a little bit of the kind of the taking of Stonehenge in there as well, which, and again, they kind of, it was kind of impossible for them to do that, or at least it was impossible for them to do that on the show the way it happens in the book with Daemon taking Stonehenge, because at this point in the show, Daemon's at Harrenhal, and that's the difference. In the book, Daemon takes Harrenhal super early on, so that does free him up to take place in Stonehenge when the Battle of the Burning Mill takes place. But here on the show, they kind of swap the events around, and they had the taking of Harrenhal happen after the Burning Mill.
We need to talk about Harrenhal, okay? Because I swear to God, Alys Rivers was there with some Jojen paste. Well, weirwood paste. I swear to God, that's what that was. And then when she's like, she's the barn owl, I was like, oh, so that's exactly what Helena drew. The barn owl drawing. That's her.
Yeah.
So
I get the feeling Helena already knows a great deal about Alys Rivers, or maybe she hasn't interpreted it yet, but it seems like she has seen her at the very least already. Because that owl comment, that wasn't random. That had to be deliberate. They put that in there for a very specific reason, like you said, probably to tie to the Helena drawing itself. But yeah, I've been loving the Daemon at Harrenhal stuff. I feel like it's been very fascinating. It kind of reminds me of that kind of Game of Thrones feeling that I used to get watching some of those Bran scenes with him kind of training with the three-eyed raven and the visions. It just, I don't know, it kind of, maybe it's just the nostalgia factor, maybe, but it just kind of brings me back to those kind of the magical element of A Song of Ice and Fire, which is something the Dance of the Dragons isn't really well known for. Yes, we have fire-breathing dragons flying all over the place, causing utter destruction. But in terms of in terms of George magic, in terms of A Song of Ice and Fire magic, there isn't a whole lot of magic that goes down during the Dance of the Dragons. So I have been enjoying these scenes. I thought these Daemon scenes at Harrenhal have been a very welcomed addition to the Dance of the Dragons. I know everybody really wants to see Daemon, kind of get up off his ass and be, the rogue prince that we know and love. And I do too as well. And I definitely think he is going to return to that. But I'm really enjoying the kind of slow burn of Daemon really just being tortured at Harrenhal, kind of having to kind of be confronted with some of the sins of his past. I don't know. I just been enjoying it myself. I really like the whole weirwood aspect. I love the explanation that Alys Rivers gives as to why Harrenhal could potentially be cursed, in terms of House Hoare potentially felling an entire grove of weirwood trees to build Harrenhal atop its ruins. And if that is the case, I could definitely see why Harrenhal would be so cursed. A lot of people attribute the Harrenhal, the curse, to what happened here with Aegon. Aegon killing House Hoare and all of his sons and the entire household all in one night. Something like that. An event like that has that much destruction, that much death, could easily stain the land around it and easily have caused some kind of curse of Harrenhal. But I like this explanation 10 times better. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a Northern fan at heart. Anything that has to do with the weirwoods, the North, the old gods, I'm always going to enjoy those kind of aspects of A Song of Ice and Fire. And the old gods, at the end of the day, they are vengeful. They are very vengeful gods and vengeful spirits when they need to be. And felling an entire grove of weirwood trees to build this monstrosity of a castle, which is pretty much a monument to vanity. Yes, I could very much see why the old gods might be very angered with Harrenhal and why it could potentially be cursed.
I mean, it's like they're going like a poltergeist route almost with it. It's kind of cool.
I think that's one of the things that's done really well, that George does really well, is everything feels grounded in what he writes, but at the same time, he's got this essence of, yes, everything is grounded and everything has an explanation. But when you get to the North, there's a mythology that exists still. And it's just hinted at. And I think that's kind of what they're doing here really well, is, again, they're just hinting that maybe there's something more with how she says, how the bed you were sleeping in is carved from that wood. And it's little things like that that just kind of hint at the mystery. It's really cool when you see somebody play with something so well, and it's just touching on it and hinting at. We're not going to get any answers. You don't want an answer to a question like that. You want that mystery, because that mystery in the background just adds that extra beautiful layer onto the story. And man, I hope they don't answer it, because this is one of those things you just don't answer. You just let it go. The best series do this. Lost did this. Twin Peaks did this. Great series always leave a mystery, because it's one of those where you go back and you watch it 12 times again, and each time you pick up a new nugget that you can talk about.
Exactly. Sometimes it's just better to leave some things ambiguous at times. I 100% agree. And like you said, some of the best series in history have done that. And you see the kind of fan conversation that it creates years and sometimes decades later, where fans are still kind of debating what happened in a series because it was left so ambiguous. So yeah, I very much like the mystery that they're kind of crafting around Harrenhal. I think Harrenhal has been one of the more interesting aspects of season 2, and I feel like they're really doing it justice. I know I mentioned this in one of my previous reviews, but we spend a pretty good amount of time at Harrenhal in the original Game of Thrones series, and not once in Game of Thrones does Harrenhal get portrayed like it is in the book or anything close to like it is on House of the Dragon. You don't really get the sense of just how big Harrenhal is in Game of Thrones, and you certainly don't get any kind of sense of the curse of Harrenhal in Game of Thrones as well. It just seems like a ruined castle in Thrones. Here, they're really playing up the curse angle.
To touch on that, we talked a little bit about this last week, is in Game of Thrones, you never have a Targaryen in it. You never have anybody. No. Yeah. You never have anybody that's direct lineage responsible for what happened there. Daemon is close.
That could be
that's
an
why
aspect to it as well.
I think it's affecting more because the legacy of what his family did. They burned those people alive. That weight hangs on them. And so that's why it's experienced. Everybody else, it's just a creepy old castle. But to the Targaryens, it's got essence. It's got meaning. Something was burned into the stone. The essence of that family was gone forever. It's wiped off the face of the earth, but forever is it burned into that castle. And when he set foot in there, he woke it up. Or maybe it's always been there and it just latches onto him.
I mean, and they did too. He definitely did, because they were from the Iron Islands.
Yes, they were Iron Islanders.
They were Iron Islanders. But they definitely did, in order to build certain things. There were tons of people that died in the quarries and everything.
They say what, like 1 million
that were
slaves
laboring on the towering wars. Walls. And they did cut down a bunch of weirwoods to provide the rafters and beams inside of I think it's 5 towers in Harrenhal, if I can remember.
5 towers,
there's 5. What is it? Tower of Dread, Wailing Tower, Tower of
Kingspire Tower.
Kingspire Tower, Widow's Tower, I think.
Widow's Tower, I think.
You know what? I think a lot of this information is in a world of Ice and Fire, and I'm too lazy to go and grab the book, even though it's on the shelf next to me. But because it's a large book, all of the other larger art books are on top of it, and I know that has like a definitive answer in it. But maybe someone in the chat knows off of the top of their head, or can research it real quick, or I'm not sure. But off the top of my head, that's what's racking my brain and coming to my brain right now. So
gotcha. But yeah, no, I just love how it's portrayed overall. I feel like they finally did Harrenhal justice on House of the Dragon compared to Game of Thrones, I guess. Because again, I mean, we spent a decent amount of time there. Arya Stark's there with the Faceless Men and Tywin and all that. I love the scenes that we get at Harrenhal in Game of Thrones in terms of dialogue and story-wise. We get some of the best dialogue between Tywin and Arya at Harrenhal in Game of Thrones. Those are some of my favorite scenes. But in terms of them portraying Harrenhal, accurately to how it's portrayed in the books, House of the Dragon really went above and beyond, where they got the perfect kind of creep factor down with the Curse of Harrenhal, but they really got the size and scale of Harrenhal down as well. Ever since the very first scene in the very first episode, where it starts off with the Council of 101 AC, and we get the interior to Harrenhal's Great Hall, and you see just how massive it is. It looks like it's the interior of a freaking football stadium, maybe even bigger. So I very much appreciate how they portray Harrenhal on House of the Dragon compared to the book, compared to Thrones. They really nailed it. I've seen this question pop up a lot as well. A lot of people have been asking this. Do we think on the show Alys is allied with Lord Clubfoot? Did she send Raven, or can't that talk through Weirwood? I've been seeing this question pop up a lot, where a lot of people are wondering if Alys and the Club Foot are somehow connected. Larys, at the end of the day, is the Lord of Harrenhal. Harrenhal is his, so I have to imagine he knows who Alys Rivers is. In the books, Alys Rivers is described as being one of Larry's and Harwin's wet nurses, and is even rumored to be Lionel's wet nurse as well, their father.
Well, I thought
So
Lionel
we're not quite
Strong
sure.
was her father, or it was disputed that it was her father.
Well, that's one of the stories. That's one of the events. We got a bunch of different versions as to who Alys is. One version is that she's the bastard of Lionel Strong. Another version is that she was actually Lionel's wet nurse. And it seems like the show is definitely portraying her as very old. The actress playing Alys Rivers on the show, Gail Rankin, has stated that Alys is potentially 400 years old, or at least that's how they're playing it on the show. And it just seems like they are trying to portray Alys on the show in a similar light to how they portrayed Melisandre. They're definitely kind of propping her up to be the kind of Melisandre of this show, which her and Melisandre do have a lot in common. They are kind of similar characters in some regards, but in other regards, they're vastly different too. So I guess we'll have to wait and see where Alys Rivers' character goes and where they end up going with her. What kind of route is she going to take? But as of right now, I'm really liking what they're doing with her character. I think Gail Rankin was a pretty good casting to play Alys Rivers. Alys Rivers is one of those weird castings where I was just never quite sure who I would cast in a role like that. So I feel like Gail's doing a really good job up until now. She's definitely portraying that mysterious aspect of Alys Rivers, and you definitely get the sense that there's a little bit more going on there beneath the surface. Does she have some kind of supernatural abilities? Can she kind of see visions and things of the future, which she seemingly can on the show as well? If that line to Daemon is any indication that you will die in this place, it seems like she does have visions of the future like she does in the book as well. So I'm loving what they're doing with her character overall. But in terms of her being connected to the Clubfoot, I'm just not really seeing it personally, other than their connection of them kind of growing up in the same castle, potentially. I just, I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll see that there'll be some kind of connection revealed, but everything that I've seen up until now, I'm not really seeing a Larys and Alys connection yet. But that's just me personally. I haven't really seen it yet.
I do think
What
in
do you
this
guys think? Do
show,
you think Alys will be working with Clubfoot?
No. I think they're leaning into her being a woods witch. They're really leaning into her being a witch.
Yeah, even Daemon calls her a witch.
Yes.
Right.
Because she was considered a witch queen by some, and in particularly like a woods witch, just because of, she's making weirwood paste. She is messing around with weirwood paste. Jojen paste, yeah.
Well, and she's got that rich sanguine.
It's definitely not
sanguine color as she's. She's doing the mortar and pestle. It's got that rich sanguine color, and then she's licking her fingers.
Yes, and it's like, yeah, I definitely think
it was super creepy. I think if their goals align, then yes, you could say that. But they're on different agendas. I don't even think she knows what her agenda is. In a way, I think she's attuned with that dark mysticism that we don't know, and it never will be defined. In some way, she's connected to it. And
she didn't.
When you talk, go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think you can tie the two together, because if you do tie the two together, then you have to. That offers an explanation into what she is, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to leave her as a mystery. That she's. And then the other question is, like somebody brought, is Harrenhal speaking through her, or is she just talking? Like, is there some way she's channeling the essence of Harrenhal?
I think she's just talking.
Yeah. Well,
everyone knows Harrenhal is doomed. Everyone pretty much knows that. It's been that way for centuries at this point. Any house that pretty much goes there, historically, if you look back through the history, they've been pretty much ended.
Some kind of tragedy over almost every house that takes over Harrenhal. Yeah.
Well, going kind of off of what Aldous said, does she doesn't really scrape and bow or even really give him deference as
No.
the regent prince. So it kind of like goes where she's kind of outside of the power structure, and she has something else that um, she answers to other than the this
The hierarchy
this
of the crown.
this current hierarchy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She does kind of seem like she is apart from it. I definitely agree with you there. She does seem like she is kind of outside of the regular Westerosi power structure that we see most lords and ladies kind of are abiding to. Like we're seeing Simon Strong, the castellan of Harrenhal, the one that yields the castle to Daemon, very much in that kind of hierarchy of power. With Alys, yeah, she kind of seems like she's operating on her own kind of set of rules. And what are those rules beholden to? Who is she beholden to? Is she a woods witch? Is she a servant of some other kind of deity? Is she a servant of nature itself? You definitely get a little bit more of that mystical kind of aspect with Alys, where I don't think she's kind of as beholden, or at least she probably doesn't feel like she's as beholden to things like the crown, like Daemon, which is why
Right.
we do see her kind of have that kind of treatment to Daemon and that effect on Daemon as well. Which is a very interesting choice. I mean, we don't get a whole lot between Alys and Daemon in the book. All we get is that not much is known about this witch queen. Not much is known about this lady during Daemon's time at Harrenhal, which leads Fire and Blood to describe that Daemon might have been one of the only characters who was kind of resistant to her charms. But I like how on the show, at least, it seems like he is kind of falling prey to her manipulation tactics in terms of what exactly she is manipulating Daemon, what path is she setting him on, because it does seem like she has a hand in it. It does seem like this Curse of Harrenhal thing might be affecting Daemon as well, but I would be super surprised if Alys Rivers doesn't have a small hand in what Daemon is experiencing as well. But yeah, I love how they're portraying her character so far, keeping it very mysterious, very ambiguous. We don't really quite know whose side is she on, who is she beholden to, what does she want. We know what happens in the book. We know what she kind of ends up becoming and who she ends up kind of hooking up with later on, which could be very interesting to see how that whole situation plays out. But in terms of as of right now, this Alys that we've seen up until this point, we don't really know what her motives are. What does she want? Who does she want to win? Which side is she on? Or is she just a Team Smallfolk character? I can definitely see her going that route a little bit more, where she's probably a little bit more worried about the people of Harrenhal and everyone around her, as opposed to which High Lord wins the Game of Thrones. But I like it. I like what they're doing with her character so far.
I mean,
April May says, yeah, I don't have lots of room, but I really think Melisandre is going to be related to Melanie Piper. Alys Rivers, I think, is connected to the Strongs who were sent to Harrenhal. Interesting. I think Alys is connected to the Children of the Forest, says Misty. Ooh, interesting. That is very interesting. Well, we know Harrenhal isn't too far away from the Isle of Faces. They're not too far away. So who knows? Who knows? Alys Rivers is a very interesting character, says Natalie. She is. She's definitely one of the more interesting characters we're seeing so far. When Alys gave Daemon her potion, we go further ahead in time to his meeting with the Blackwood. What do you think Alys did to Daemon during the time he was out? Now, that's a very interesting scene in and of itself. And I kind of go back on that scene so much to try and figure out what exactly is happening there. Because yes, one minute we see Daemon being handed this cup of seemingly weirwood paste. Next thing we know, he's taking a sip of it and he's sitting at the table with the Blackwoods. So what exactly happened there? I mean, I'm still not 100% sure what exactly happened there, to be honest. But it is one of the more creepy and weird scenes. Here we see the weirwood paste, which, again, I definitely think this is weirwood paste.
Oh, that's
I feel
weirwood
like this
paste.
has to be. It's got to be.
It has to be.
It
has to be. Like,
it's got to be.
As soon as I saw it, that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, this chick is making weirwood paste. I'm like, she's literally giving him weirwood paste and he's tripping balls. He is like on a whole psychedelic journey right now. He doesn't know what time it is. He doesn't know what place he's at. He doesn't know anything. Like, Literally.
He even
That's
looks over
what I
at
thought.
Blackwood like,
He's
who
like,
the hell
what?
are you? What are you doing
Where
here?
am I? How did I get here?
How did I get here? Who are you? What are you
So
doing here?
yeah, I mean, I think he was
It's
possibly
super
like tripping
trippy.
out the whole time. I think he possibly was tripping out the whole time. He was already sitting there,
I
maybe
think this
drinking
could have
it.
been a dream.
That's what I think. All of
I
that was a
think,
dream.
yeah,
Just because
I
we
think this
see
could have
him,
been a dream.
we see him like look at himself and see himself as Aemond, which I thought was very interesting.
Super creepy.
He
Well,
was
I
like
mean, Matt
cosplaying
Smith
Aemond.
just, well,
And
that's the
Matt
thing.
Smith was trying to make his
I love
face.
Matt Smith as Daemon, but I'm sorry, Matt Smith he just can't pull off the eye patch like Ewan Mitchell can. Ewan Mitchell looks badass with the eye patch.
He
Matt
tried to make
Smith
the same
he
face.
just
yeah.
doesn't look good with the eye patch. The eye patch looks
No.
so weird on him.
Mhm.
So yeah, not everybody can pull off an eye patch, unfortunately. But yeah, no, that's kind of my sense as well. I get the feeling that some of this vision, some of this hallucination that Daemon is having, maybe a portion of it was a dream. But if that is the case, then how the heck does he wake up at that table? Was a part of him sleepwalking at some point? Like there's something very trippy going on here, and it's definitely left very ambiguous.
I mean,
I don't, dude. Anybody that's dropped enough acid knows that experience. The next, you wake up like 3 hours later and you're standing in front of the sink washing your socks, and you're like, "What the hell?" Like,
yeah.
And in the meantime, everybody around you is like, "Oh, hey man, you're just washing your socks in the sink." And you're like, "What the hell am I doing?" That's what that moment is. It's just he's coming out of it. He's been out of it, and he just has a moment of lucidity, and then boom, he's right back to it. And then a couple hours later, another moment of lucidity. That happens, man. That's why. That's why when a strange weirwood witch hands you a drink, you got to really seriously consider if you're going to drink it or not.
Oh man, I mean, it seemed like his worst fear was to be yelled at by a young Rhaenyra while cosplaying as Aemond.
I know, geez.
In an aspect, like that was his worst fear. But I thought it was cool though to see, like, not necessarily like, how can I put it? How he viewed himself as Aemond, because
Daemon seeing himself become Aemond. Yes, he's seeing himself become this black villain.
But it's very much symbolic of them being a parallel to each other. And I really love how they're like bashing that point in. It's just very interesting. And in an aspect, if it's his fears that he's being shown, right? Daemon, it's like Daemon, it's not that he fears Aemond, it's that he fears his own self because he knows
fears becoming Aemond. He doesn't fear Aemond himself.
This is what I think. I don't necessarily know if it's becoming Aemond. I think it's Daemon fears his own self pretty much, and that he knows that no one would challenge him but someone that is just like him, because he's Daemon Targaryen. Who would challenge him? And Aemond wants to challenge him in an aspect. So
I
mean, think about it that way. It's
I like it.
I know it's an odd way to look at it, but
no, not at all. Because Daemon is that character where he's very much used to being, he's number one. He's Daemon Targaryen, the prince of the city. Who's going to challenge Daemon? Who can match up to Daemon? And then Aemond comes along trying to become this kind of carbon copy of Daemon. And even, Ewan Mitchell has very much played it. And he's admitted this much in interviews where he very much, Aemond very much views Daemon as his hero at one point. He wants to be Daemon. And here we're seeing that kind of role reversal, whereas Aemond spends so much time trying to become Daemon. Now Daemon is seeing himself potentially becoming Aemond is kind of how I saw it. But it's a very interesting scene, but I couldn't get over Matt Smith and that freaking eye patch. He just can't pull it off. He just cannot pull off the eye patch like you and Mitchell can.
The face that he made, I wish you clipped it, because he literally was trying to make a face like you and Mitchell. Like what he did with his jaw and everything.
Like this?
Yes, look at he's like viewing his jaw or something. He's really look at his face. He doesn't usually make faces like that. He's really he's getting into it.
I mean, Ewan Mitchell looks great with the eye patch. Like the eye patch on Ewan Mitchell, it perfectly fits him. Matt Smith, not so much. Not so much.
He looks like he's like Mad Eye Moody in Harry Potter.
He's a little mad-eyed. He's a little mad-eyed. Yeah, a little mad-eyed. But this is an interesting question as well, as April May brings up. The thing is, did the meeting ever happen, or did Daemon imagine that whole thing? And that's another thing. Like the way that they, and that's the thing. I think the show purposely leaves it ambiguous, where the writers mentioned earlier on where they wanted to put Daemon in a position where he didn't know what was real and what was fake, where Daemon himself couldn't distinguish dream from reality. And I feel like they're doing the exact same thing with us as the audience, where it seems like they want us to kind of ask that very same question: what is real? What part of what Daemon is seeing is happening while he's awake? What part of this is an actual hallucination? What is real? What is fake? What's reality? And where is that line? The show has been leaving it very ambiguous up until this point. So that's a good question, April May. What do we know what is real and what isn't real? Is the meeting with the Blackwoods the real part? Or was him running into Alys Rivers the real part? Which part was it? Or are they both real? Or are they both fake? The writers definitely wanted to put Daemon in that position where he couldn't tell the difference. And I feel like us as the audience, we're in that same position as well, where we're kind of left wondering what was real, what was dream, what was hallucination, yada, yada. It's tough to say because it's left, again, very ambiguous. Well, that's a good question, April. That's a very good question.
What is Daemon even doing there? It seems like that he's been there for a long time, but is just kind of hanging out. I know that he's supposed to be trying to assemble some armies, but he's just sitting there. Why isn't he out doing more than just letting people come to him?
And I think it's because Harrenhal is affecting him. Daemon originally takes Harrenhal because he needs a foothold for their troops in the Riverlands, and from that point, you would have assumed Daemon would have left Harrenhal and gone on his recruiting spree, trying to turn as many houses to their cause as possible and start assembling that army of rivermen. But it seems like Harrenhal has had such a profound effect on Daemon that until he can kind of get through whatever is happening to him at Harrenhal, it's kind of preventing him from going out there and raising up that army of rivermen. Or at least that's kind of how I took it. I feel like Daemon, at this point, he's psychologically just grappling with his demons, that he's not really he not forgot what he was there for, but he's been kind of distracted as to why he was originally there for, which is to raise an army. And it seems like all of this trippy stuff with Harrenhal is seemingly kind of distracting him from that. And we do see he does seem to want to renovate Harrenhal a little bit as well. If we look at the trailer from episode 5, we see Daemon out there. He's chopping wood. They're renovating Harrenhal, and they mentioned that in the previous episode as well. So yeah, it seems like he's been just a little bit distracted, whereas you would expect him to kind of go out there and start recruiting other Riverlord houses, other Riverrun houses, Riverlands. But it seems like the stuff at Harrenhal has left him a little distracted. Yeah, little distracted.
I'm hoping we get that.
And we haven't seen it yet, but I do have to ask the question. He is the Prince Regent, right? I mean, he's the Queen's husband.
He's the king consort.
Yeah,
the king consort. The Queen's consort.
Sorry, thank you for correcting that. Is he the absolute best person? Like, no, you guys go do that. I'm gonna chop wood. Like it's
yeah.
Or is it one of those things?
Should he be chopping wood himself? Yeah, it's a little bit weird for the king consort to be out there chopping wood himself when he could be off doing more
like
bigger,
maybe he should be going over and talking to the
things.
Muppet people, and I can't remember which one it is, whether it's Grover, Kermit, or
Muppet
Oscar.
Grover.
The Tullys, yeah, and go over and
Muppet people.
Well, he named them after Muppets, so.
I know,
but to go talk to, like, why would you not hop on the back of your dragon, go and just, okay, if they're going to be incompetent, I'm going to show up and do the same thing I did at Harrenhal. I've got a dragon, bow down, and then do what I say. It's just, why?
But isn't Daemon fairly incompetent?
A little bit.
Not really.
No.
Well, but in the
I
first
think Daemon's a
season,
little more
Well,
competent than
he's
most.
more
I mean,
competent.
look at what Daemon did with the Gold Cloaks, for starters. We saw that the City Watch was in utter disarray. It was an army of not even an army, it was a band of cutthroats and thieves that did absolutely nothing to protect the city of King's Landing until Daemon came around and completely turned the City Watch into the
Mhm.
gold cloaks that we know even in the current day of Game of Thrones. So in terms of competency, I think Daemon is a more competent character than most of the other characters, considering what he did with the
oh.
gold cloaks, considering what he did down in the stepstones as well, completely just smashing the crab feeder and putting an end to the stepstones threat. I think Daemon's a little
But that
more
took a while,
competent than
though.
most.
I think anyone that
It took a
wields
while, yeah.
Dark is competent because that's a key characteristic of anyone that has that sword.
Hmm.
It is.
And is he without his faults? Absolutely not. I mean, I think Daemon has proven time and time again that he's definitely not infallible. He's not without his faults. He's made many rash decisions that have cost him and his family dearly. But in terms of like competency, I think he's one of the more competent characters on the show. But he definitely has his moments where he could have handled things better, for sure.
I want to see him cutting into the weirwood tree, slashing into it. I really do. I want to see, hopefully we see some of that tomorrow. I know tomorrow from the trailer, we are definitely going to see him like go into the Riverlands, and we're going to get that iconic trailer line,
Yep.
which is the most Targaryen shit ever said. And I'm so excited to see how it plays out just because it's just very Targaryen of him.
Yeah, and I think this will be the I don't know if it'll be the final episode, but I think this episode will probably start to see, the beginning of the ending of the whole Daemon dream hallucination storyline that is happening here. I don't expect it to last too many more episodes. I feel like 3 episodes is a good amount of time for it to last, where it really kind of fleshes itself out. But they can't just continue to have Daemon have these kind of hallucinations over and over and over again. It needs to get to a point where he needs to kind of overcome whatever is causing these. And it seems like his guilt, for the most part, is causing these. And once he confronts all of that, I do think he'll be moving forward, and we'll see Daemon get back to the rogue prince that we know and love. And yeah, like you said, Kayla, it looks like in episode 5, he is going to be departing from Harrenhal. He's finally going to be going out into the Riverlands and start recruiting, as we get that awesome line in episode 5 trailer of Daemon stating, "It's very simple. You either bend the knee or your house burns."
House burns. I love that. So Targaryen.
Incredibly Targaryen of him.
Rolls up there and
so it looks like we are
Caraxes.
going to see that. Yeah, it looks like we are going to see that happen in episode 5. So if people have been wanting Daemon to get back to the kind of rogue prince that we know and love, rest assured he is going to get back to that character. And even Matt Smith has said as much, that we are going to see a kind of, he described it as a weaker Daemon at the beginning of season 2, but through that he will find his way back to the rogue prince, the Daemon that we know and love. And I do think we're on the cusp of that, where we are very, very shortly, we are going to see Daemon return to that rogue prince that we know and love. And I think we will see some of that in episode 5, as he does go out there and seemingly tries to recruit the Brackens, of all people, as we get our first look at Amos Bracken in the trailer. But in terms of all of this, yeah, I've been really loving the Harrenhal stuff. I love the how very ambiguous that they have been playing all of it, in terms of not only Daemon not knowing what is real and what is hallucination, but us as the audience also not knowing what is real and what has been hallucination. So I've really been enjoying the Daemon parts up until now, but it will be fun to kind of see Daemon get back to the proper rogue prince. And we have a $5 super chat from Jennifer Grover. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for the $5. Very much appreciate you, my friend. Hey, you angels. Just wanted to say hi to everyone. Well, hello, back to you as well, Jennifer. I hope you are having a phenomenal weekend. I hope everybody in the chat is having a phenomenal weekend. And I hope you guys are gearing up and getting ready for House of the Dragon episode 5 tomorrow. But again, thank you so much, Jennifer, for the $5 super chat. And you guys know what that means. A woe is on the way.
Whoa! Yeah.
A woe is on the way. Awesome stuff. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Let's see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. What did you guys think of episode 4? What did you guys think of the Daemon and Harrenhal stuff? We want to know what you guys are thinking. Harrenhal is probably Bran's PlayStation VR version of having fun. That's all. That's just him messing up with everyone. That's hilarious. That is absolutely, yeah, it's just freaking Bran's VR headset. He's just controlling all this shite. He is trapped in Harrenhal. How do you, Harrenhal, on your side? You beat the Trixie Magic's trap, and I think maybe that's what Daemon might have to do. He might have to beat the old Trixie Magic's trap to move on to the next level. He hasn't sent a raven to anyone, which is a very interesting point, Cheryl. And we've seen that mentioned on the Blacks council meetings that they've been having in particular, where time and time again, they keep saying that they've still heard no word from Prince Daemon at Harrenhal. So yeah, whatever is happening to Daemon, he's becoming very distracted from what he originally went there in the first place, to raise an army of rivermen, set a foothold in the Riverlands at Harrenhal. And it doesn't seem like he's done any of that yet. And like you said, he hasn't even sent a single freaking raven to let anybody know that he's successfully taken Harrenhal. So yeah, he's very much been distracted by whatever is happening to him here at Harrenhal, for sure. For sure. Daemon is deciding if he loves Rhaenyra or wants to be king like Aemond. Like Aemond, royalty is not stronger than selfish, says Will Smalls. Ooh, interesting. Very interesting. And we do get that line in the last episode when Daemon first takes Harrenhal, when Simon Strong refers to him as my prince. Daemon corrects him and says, Your Grace. So Daemon very much wants to be referred to as Your Grace, even though he is not the king. And a lot of people have been thinking that maybe is this Daemon potentially wanting to press his own claim? Is he going to betray Rhaenyra at some point? I don't think it'll ever get that far personally, but it has been an interesting kind of footnote to notice that he is particularly wanting to be called Your Grace. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? You think Daemon is potentially trying to decide if he wants to be king over Rhaenyra? You think we could see that storyline turn into anything? I don't think so personally, but who knows what will happen on the show.
I don't think so. I mean, if the show decides to do that, the show decides to do that, because sometimes, well, a lot of times with the shows, I have to separate my book knowledge and what direction they're going to go with on the show. So no, I don't see. I don't see Daemon doing that. Even on the show, I don't think it would make any sense for that to happen.
I don't think it would make sense this early on anyway. Like when we get a little bit later on in the dance and we see Rhaenyra start to descend a little bit more into kind of paranoia and madness, then I could maybe see Daemon kind of, we see how Daemon kind of takes the metal a little bit later on. We see how, Daemon at one point, I don't want to spoil too much. It's so hard not to spoil this stuff.
We don't know.
Because it's just.
I mean, I just don't know what character. I don't know, like, I'm going to say it straight out. I don't know if they're going to introduce Nettles or not, what's going on with that situation.
Yeah, we don't know.
If they introduce her, how that's going to feed into the show, what they're going to do with her and Daemon's interactions, whatever the case. I will say that Daemon does have children with Rhaenyra, so they are in line to eventually rule. So I wouldn't, I don't know. Daemon's very loyal to his family. Yeah, that's how I've always taken
Daemon. Yeah, he does, and even Matt Smith kind of says this all the time, where Daemon has this kind of perverted sense of a moral compass, where yes, he's willing to do heinous things, but he cares about his family at the end of the day. And where Daemon is now at this point in time, yes, he and Rhaenyra did just have that little bit of a fight in terms of Rhaenyra finding out about his hand in setting up Blood and Cheese, which Rhaenyra was very much against on the show. So they are on rocky ground, but I don't think Daemon would go so far as to just outright betray Rhaenyra and want to become king over her. I don't see their relationship getting that dire this early on anyway. But who knows? But did they use the term Crown Lands on Game of Thrones? Yes, they did. They don't not too often, but I do believe they mentioned the Crown Lands on Game of Thrones as well.
They definitely mentioned it in the videos that they did, the animated videos that they did on, was it the DVDs or the Blu-rays that had the lore, that had the cast members?
They definitely mentioned it there.
Those were
I think
great.
they mentioned it on the actual show, though, as well. I think we get a passing line of the Crown Lands on the show as well.
Right. Now, somebody in the chat asked, it was Radical Z asked, why do the gold cloaks even follow the greens? Because what's the association? It's about the perception of power, the association of pomp and circumstance and title. You got to remember, they're still small folk.
It's about who's
They're
king. The
they're
gold
in
cloaks
King's
are loyal
Landing.
to the king.
Rhaenyra left. She's on Dragonstone. She's not in King's Landing. King's Landing is Aemond. So Aemond is the king. And you got to remember also, we live in a position as readers, as viewers, where we get to the fourth wall is being broken and we see it all. If you take it down, imagine you're living in King's Landing. The only thing you've seen is the crowning of the king, the breakout of the dragon pit, and then the death of the king's son. Who are you going to side with? You're only getting that portion of the story. So, and it's not a slam, but they're illiterate. They're not they don't have access to sources of information. So who else would they follow?
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. At this point in time, they've portrayed Aegon as being that kind of rightful ruler, crowning him in the dragon pit, having him have the black fire in hand, the crown of Aegon the Conqueror. And we even hear Otto mention this at the end of season 1, that every sign, every symbol of legitimacy belongs to Aegon. And it does. He looks like he is the legitimate heir. So yes, if you're the small folk of King's Landing, you only have so much information to go on. You can only kind of see the events that are transpiring within the city. And if you're the Gold Cloaks in particular, you kind of just have to be loyal to whoever is in charge at the time. But I do think there is always going to be that underlying kind of at least in the book, there's always that underlying loyalty that the Gold Cloaks have to Daemon, that later on when Daemon kind of does return to the city, you can see how loyal the Gold Cloaks are to him and the part that they actually play in, the fall of King's Landing. But as of right now, yes, I think it's one of those things where they're kind of just, they're stuck in the position they're in. They kind of have to follow, the one that's paying them at the end of the day. And Littlefinger kind of lays that out in Game of Thrones as well, in terms of when the king proclaims one hand, when the hand proclaims one king and the queen another, who do the Gold Cloaks follow? The man who pays them at the end of the day. And if the crown is paying the Gold Cloaks, they're going to follow the crown.
Yeah, and plus he's filling them with his cronies, so that helps too.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's the King's Guard. That's the King's Guard that he's filling with his cronies.
Okay.
Yeah, which it's the King's Guard. They're going to be loyal to the king, and then ironically, I believe it was Maegor. Maegor is who founded the Gold Cloaks, the City Watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and
it's going to
City
be
Watch, they defend the city of King's Landing, pretty much. So
it'll be interesting to see what, if any, part the Gold Cloaks play in season 3 when we do get a little bit closer to kind of more action happening at King's Landing. It'll be interesting to see what part the Gold Cloaks play on the show. Will they kind of play up that whole the Gold Cloaks being loyal to Daemon angle on the show? Or will they not even really kind of touch on it again, I guess, is the question. But I guess we'll find out. I guess we will find out. Will Daemon stay at Harrenhal until the finale? I'm not, again, at this point, I'm really not quite sure what the show is going to do. But if the book is any indication, then yes, Daemon will probably be staged at Harrenhal, at least for the remainder of season 2. We'll probably see him leave, and go on his kind of quote unquote recruiting missions, as we are going to see in episode 5. It seems like he is going to go to some other Riverlands houses and try to recruit, most likely the Brackens, based on the trailer. So yes, if Fire and Blood is any guide, Daemon will probably be staged at Harrenhal for the rest of season 2, although we might see him in some other parts of Westeros. But yes, he should be staged there at least for the remainder of season 2, if the book is any guide, that is. We got a $5 super chat from Leo V. Thank you so much, Leo V, for the $5, my friend. Thank you. Can't Aegon order the death of Aemond when he's healed? What's the reason why he wouldn't? Good question, Leo. Very good question indeed. And now, for all intents and purposes, yes, I imagine he probably could. Aegon is the king at the end of the day. The king's word is law. If Aegon were to wake up and say, "My brother burned me on purpose, I want him dead," then yes, they would have no choice but to kind of seize Aemond and execute him. So yes, I mean, he does have that power. If he does wake up and chooses to use that power, technically he could have Aemond executed. Yes, he does have that power within him. Will he? That's another question. I am not sure. And that's another reason why I feel like it adds a very interesting aspect to Aemond and Aegon's relationship. Again, they were already kind of on that shaky ground where they weren't the best of brothers. They had a lot of ups and downs. Aegon certainly seemed to have a lot of built up mistrust for Aemond. So yeah, you add this kind of nasty bit to their relationship with Aemond seemingly blasting Aegon out of the sky on purpose. How exactly is that going to affect their relationship when Aegon does come to? I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing it, though. But absolutely, Leo, if Aegon wanted to, when he woke up, he could easily have Aemond executed if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for the $5 super chat, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. You guys know what that means. A whoa is on the way.
Whoa!
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Let's see what else you guys are saying in here. How many Brackens and Blackwoods are really left after the burning mill? That was a lot of dead peeps. That was a littered field just covered with dead bodies. A lot of dead Brackens and Blackwoods. But again, the Blackwoods and the Brackens, they very much are like the Hatfields and McCoys of Westeros. So they just reproduce like freaking jackrabbits, I would imagine. So anytime you see a Blackwood or a Bracken die, two more spring up in its place, it seems like. So it seems like there's still a decent amount of Brackens and Blackwoods out there. Although their respective armies probably have been kind of greatly reduced in number after the Battle of the Burning Mill. But I still get the feeling there's probably still a decent amount of forces, on each family, but not as much as would have been before the battle. They won't do it because they will say Aegon is raving on Milk of the Poppy and pain when he claims that Aemond tried to kill him, is my guess. Ooh, now that's interesting as well. If Aegon does wake up sooner rather than later and he's just ravaged by Milk of the Poppy, he's always kind of just in la-la land, will they take anything that he says at face value? That's an interesting question, April. Yeah, I'm not sure. And I guess that's what's going to be interesting. When will Aegon even wake up is the question I'm wondering. Will Aegon be kind of incapacitated for a good amount of time that will give Aemond, all the time that he needs to kind of maneuver? Or will this be one of these events where Aegon kind of wakes up rather soon and is able to kind of talk and let everybody know what happened? I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But I'm not sure. I don't know how long Aegon is going to be incapacitated for. How long, how much freedom will Aemond have? I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting. And there's also the possibility that if Aegon does wake up and starts putting forth those claims, Aemond at the end of the day could always just deny it and say it was an accident. Mm-hmm. So, he's got some plausible deniability. So it's a sticky situation. It's a very sticky situation.
And he'll have some time to consolidate some power himself while Aegon is incapacitated. So not everyone would maybe listen to even though Aegon's the king, they still might not listen to him.
Maybe. Or there's also this possibility, as Misty says, who knows? Maybe Aemond might not even be around by the time Aegon wakes up. I guess it all depends on how long Aegon is going to be incapacitated for. But that's a possibility as well, Misty. That is definitely a possibility. Would you like a spin-off about how the war began with the Blackwoods? Ooh, yes. Interesting.
Yes.
I don't know if a whole spin-off show, I mean, I'd watch it if HBO did do a spin-off show like that. Of course, I would definitely watch it. But in terms of, would that be a spin-off show that I would want? I don't know, not really, maybe. I mean, it's an interesting rivalry, yes. I mean, just considering that we don't know a whole lot about it, how it originally started, how long they've been feuding. So there are some interesting aspects there, but in terms of turning that into a whole show, I mean, I'd watch it if they did make it, but it wouldn't be something that I would outright want.
My view is if they do a whole show on the Age of Heroes in general, because that's the only way they would have to do it, that would be a portion, or we get insight in that way. Yes. I don't think like a show completely focusing on them two, but a show definitely about the Age of Heroes. Absolutely. And that they definitely would touch on that because their feud goes back that far since the Age of Heroes.
Seems like it does. Yeah, seems like it does. Seems like they've been feuding forever.
It goes all the way back to those days when the Blackwoods were kings and the Brackens were like lords that bred horses. So I think, I would love an Age of Heroes show. Like I would love a spinoff all about the Age of Heroes.
Well, we almost got it. I mean, the original Long Night show that we were supposed to before even House of the Dragon was conceived. When Game of Thrones first ended, the first spinoff show that they were working on was the working title Blood Moon, and it would have shown all of those events. It would have shown the original Long Night. It would have shown the Age of Heroes. It would have shown so many iconic things that are just from Westerosi legend that we don't really know a whole lot about. It would have shown all of that stuff.
Ice spiders.
Lan the freaking Clever. We actually would have seen Lan the Clever. And the origin of House Lannister. There would have been so many iconic things that they could do with an Age of Heroes show. I would love for them to do that at some point. And we almost got it. But apparently the production was so abysmal that the entire project got scrapped after they spent almost $35 million filming their pilot.
That's insane.
Which turned out to be so bad that they just completely scrapped the entire project. But yeah, we almost got it. We almost got an original Long Night series that would have shown lot of the Age of Heroes. We would have seen a lot of it.
They need to go back to the drawing table and make it happen. Make it happen.
I would rather see this. I very much agree with this. I would much rather see a Blackfire Rebellion. In terms of all of the spin-off shows that are in pre-production right now, don't get me wrong, I would love to see Aegon's Conquest get greenlit. It seems like that one is coming further and further along. Mattson Tomlin is actively writing the script for season 1 of Aegon's Conquest. It hasn't been greenlit by HBO yet, but that one does seem to have a good hope, a decent chance that it might get greenlit. And as cool as Aegon's Conquest will be, as much as I am very much looking forward and hoping that show does get greenlit, if there is any time period in Westerosi history that I could get a show based off, if it's not going to be the Long Night, it's definitely going to be the Blackfire Rebellion. I feel like the Blackfire Rebellion, the first Blackfire Rebellion in particular, it's one of the most interesting and most character-rich time periods in Westeros history. You have so many fascinating and just rich characters in that time period, like Daemon Blackfire, a young blood raven, Alys Rivers, Aegon IV. There's so many just compelling characters during that time period that, yes, I'm right there with you, Sobi. I would love to see a Blackfire Rebellion. That would be freaking awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah, they got to do Blackfire Rebellion.
But here's an interesting question. I would love to get everybody's answer, both on the panel and on the chat, from this one as well. As Fletcher asks, this is a question for each of you on the panel and in the chat. If you had to make one huge spinoff, choose what it would be about. Y'all can't choose the same one. Now, for me, again, it's going to be a House Stark show. It's got to be a House Stark. And most likely, I would probably like the origin of House Stark and the origin of Bran the Builder. Give me a Bran the Builder show surrounding the foundation of House Stark, the building of Winterfell, the building of the Wall, all of these iconic moments, and have that show eventually lead into the first Long Night. If I could have any spinoff in history, that would be it. Give me a Stark origin Bran the Builder show. But what about you guys in the chat and on the panel? If you could have any spinoff that you wanted, Kayla, what would it be?
I don't. That's hard because,
It's tough. There's so many,
well,
so
it's
many
like
awesome time periods.
I definitely would want a spin-off that focuses on the Age of Heroes as a whole that goes in, and it would probably have to be a long ass spin-off because
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would go through to every different almost major house and even houses that don't even exist anymore, like Garth the Green Seer and everything, and then it would go over to like even the Iron Islands and everything. Like, but then I don't know. Then I kind of would want one about like the Dawn Age as well. And
I
this
would
is
love
because
a
I'm
Dawn Age show, and you
like
just focus on the Children of the Forest and the Giants, just their aspect. I would love a Dawn
this.
Age show.
There's so much because I'm so into the world building and the lore. I mean, it's my favorite world to escape into for sure. So I definitely either it would be between those two. I mean, you know what? I want all the spin-offs I can possibly get because I just
Give
want
me
a
all the
Song of Ice and
spin-offs.
Fire content
Give me
possible.
all the spin-offs.
But it basically, yeah, the Age of Heroes and the Dawn Age spin-offs of either or. I can't decide. I'm torn. Like I'm really torn. I can't answer this question. And then a part of me, you know, Jon Snow. I want a Jon Snow spinoff as long as I'm in control of it and I can write it. So I can try to fix. But yeah, those
what
two.
about you, Albert? Yeah, I mean, awesome choices. I would be happy with. I'm happy with anything A Song of Ice and Fire related. If it's based on A Song of Ice and Fire and it's actually well written and well produced, I'll give anything at least a chance. I'll at least give anything a chance. What about you, Aldous? If you could have any aspect of Westerosi history or Essos history, anything, what would you want to see turned into a show? Oops. I think all this is away for a minute. What about you, Snug? If you could pick any, what would you want?
I would do a Friends-like sitcom of the dating life of the Targaryens.
What? Wait, it would have to. Would it be what is it? Aegon, the Unworthy, his dating life or something?
Yeah.
Interesting.
All his bastard kids.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do apologize. I had to step away. I had a cat and a dog that were about ready to go at each other in the kitchen. But the if I had to do a spinoff of this, I would invert the camera. Instead of focusing on the lords, I would do it from do like what Rome did with HBO, where you take like a commander of a brigade or a battalion of like not a primary house, like a tertiary house, and show the story through their eyes. Somebody that survives all of this and what they see and how it affects them. Not the small folk, but somebody that's going to be actually marching and traveling and fighting in these battles. And I think that would be interesting to do it from that angle, because you're not going to get all the political intrigue. You're going to see the effects of every choice that's made is what it's going to reflect on the screen, and then it's going to show you how this impacts people and how that changes people. I think that would be very interesting.
Interesting. Okay, I like it. That could be a very interesting aspect to kind of see things through that kind of POV lens. Radical Z wants to see a 10,000 ships. There's a reason why they're going back to the drawing board with that one. Yeah, I mean, I would love if 10,000 ships eventually gets greenlit. I mean, that show would be just enormous in size and scale, especially if you're going to like really tell the entire story of Nymeria. You need to show old Valyria. You got to show hundreds of freaking dragons and dragon riders. You got to see all of the stuff that goes on with the River Rhoyne. That would be just such a massive show that I hope that one gets greenlit at some point. It is technically still in pre-production. Hasn't been greenlit yet, but they are technically still working on it. So hopefully that one gets picked up. That's a good one. At this point, anything with no parallels to Game of Thrones would be nice. Yeah, I guess so. Let's see what else we got. AC says, I want to see Arya going west of Westeros so bad. Oh, interesting. And I've actually heard a lot of people mention this, that they would like to see an Arya spinoff show. And again, at this point, I would give anything A Song of Ice and Fire based at least a chance. Fletcher would like to see a Shy series. Now, that could be very fun. I mean, a Shy is one of those places that is just shrouded in mystery and dark magic and sacrifice and all the other weird shit that goes on there. Down to the very city of Ashai itself and the stone that it's built out of, which is very reminiscent to some of the weird oily black stone we see in other parts of Planetos as well. So yeah, and a Shy origin show would be freaking phenomenal. Show me a Shy, show me Stagai, the Dead City, show me all of that. Hell yes, I would love that. I would love that. I'd like if someone resurrected Dany, made her queen, and take Bran off the throne. Oof, damn. Maybe. Boltons versus Starks, says Rooftop Korean. That could be very interesting. I mean, if they were to center a show around the conflict of the Boltons versus the Starks and have it kind of lead into the Andalos invasion and kind of Theon Stark becoming the King of Winter and all of that, that could be a very intriguing show. Anything Stark related, I am 100% in for. But yes, if they did a show surrounding the original kind of battle, the original kind of rivalry between the Boltons and the Starks, I would love for it to be centered right around that time period that it kind of leads right into the Andalos invasion. That could be pretty cool. Queen Nymeria, another awesome show. I would like a Stark origin show, says Doc Hayes. Hell yes, Doc Hayes. Again, that's where I'm at as well. If I could pick anything, give me a Bran the Builder origin show. Give me a Stark origin show. Let me see how Winterfell was built, how the crypts of Winterfell were first dug out, how the wall was first constructed. All of that. That would be my first choice. Give me a Stark origin show. That or going east of Essos, we can see the creatures and monsters that live out there. Yeah, who knows
I love
what the
that
hell's out
idea.
there?
I love that
Who knows
idea.
what's out there? Yeah.
Yes.
And again, like, you know, George has done his best to kind of fill out his world map as much as he possibly could. And that's where we get all of these really interesting and really cool Lovecraftian influences on George's map. But yeah, there's so many of these places that George never really intends to take the story to, but those are some of the most interesting places that I really want to see the most of. Like, let me get some more dark stuff happening in Qohor. Give me some dark stuff in Ashai. Like, I want to see these really weird, obscure places that George never really intended for the main story to travel to, but are still some of the most interesting aspects on his entire map. I would love to see
for
some
sure,
of that.
man.
Lotharios?
And my answer ties in with the question of who was that? Somebody asked about the Doom of Valeria. Like, what's your wildest idea? I can't remember the princess's name, but she gets under a dragon and she disappears for a while, and she comes back and she's feverish and she ends up
Araya.
she ends up getting the fireworms. Like, man, there's so much hints at blood magic and stuff that I want to say like it's spiritual, but man, I want more there. Like, that would be wild to know where do those bloodworms come from, and the writhing. Is it some kind of weird parasite that just infects them? Is it something that she tapped into in the blood magic side that came over from that mythical other side that we talked about earlier? That would be really cool to see something explored there. But I think that's what the Doom of Valeria is. I think there's something associated with that. I think she went back and there's something there that is bad. And that's
Something
what it is.
still alive
Well,
there.
there definitely are theories, many theories about fireworms or even about faceless men. So that are very compelling as to what caused the doom.
And if we do get Aegon's conquest greenlit, it would be very advantageous for them to start with the doom. Start off, if Aegon's conquest does get greenlit, the very first episode should be, maybe the first 10 minutes of the episode should be Daenys the Dreamer having the dream of the Doom of Valyria and the Targaryens migrating from Valyria to Dragonstone, and then we see the actual Doom fall years later, and then we get a fast forward about 100 years later to Aegon the Conqueror. But if you're going to do an Aegon spinoff, I feel like you got to start with the Doom, and you have to see how the Targaryens migrated from Old Valyria to Westeros in the first place. That's my hope, anyway.
You know what else was always compelling to me? In the world of Fire and Ice, there was always the story of Rhaenyra Valerius, and she was a dragon rider from Valyria, but she wasn't Targaryen, and she had the dragon Terax, and she flew further south than anyone else ever has, like all the way
Over
through Sathorios. Yes.
Years.
So
And she
what did
still
she
couldn't find the
see?
ending of it.
You know, and
Well, that's the
she
thing.
basically said everything was as large as Essos, but 3 years out there, and it was a land without end. There's no way that they just flew around for 3 straight years. They had to land someplace. She had to see something. So what is that something? You know,
I think they just couldn't find the end of the map. And I think if they would have continued, they eventually would have come as far as the Lands of Always Winter, because George has mentioned his world is round. So if you are mapping out Sathorios, if you're going as far south as you possibly can and continue to go even further, eventually you're going to find yourself in the Lands of Always Winter.
Absolutely.
I would love to see that because, yeah, I mean, man, flying over the continent of Sathorios for 3 straight years and still not finding the continent's end, who knows what else is down there in Sathorios? That place is the most undiscovered continent on the entire map.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to know. I need to know what's in there. I want to know. I mean, you have the ruined cities of what is it, like Yin, Gogosos, Gorosh,
Gogosos,
Zamatar. I can't think of the names right now. You know,
Yin, Gogosos, Yamatar. You got the Thousand Isles, the Basilisk Isles, all there, all up
all
there
of
in
it.
the
Yes,
north of
Nath is like off of there.
All of that. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that would be so cool as well.
Interesting places. And then when you think about some of the creatures that are down there, you got
lizards,
wyverns,
vampire bats, wyverns,
you got gorillas that are 50 feet high that can take out an elephant with a single punch. I mean, hell, you got freaking King Kong down there in Sathorios, it sounds like.
Did.
There's massive stuff down there.
They said
now again, a lot of that was just so George could fill up his map and just so he could fill up the World of Ice and Fire book. We'll probably never actually go down there, but it is one of the most interesting parts of Planetos. So Sathorios is just shrouded in danger and mystery.
Yes. And
so, yeah,
that's something I would like to see. Definitely things that like build upon the world and more things that expand upon the lore. That's my kind of thing.
Like this spinoff about Alyssa Farman ran away towards Ashai and learned magic and became Melisandre. That is one of the theories. Aegon and his sister wives, which we could eventually get here if Aegon the Conqueror's series does get greenlit. I hope it does. I hope it does. It seems like it is going along. Mattson Tomlin's been working on that the script for a while now, so hopefully, fingers crossed that Aegon's Conquest does eventually get green lit.
Yes, I want to see.
I can see the TV. Definitely. I can see the TV Game of Thrones universe outlasting the books, in my opinion. Oh, I mean, at this point, as long as HBO has the on-screen rights, then yes, it will. It will definitely outlast the books. I mean, that's just how TV is. The way media has been progressing, with things getting more and more digital as the years go on. That yes, I think it will get to a point where the shows might outlast the books. I mean, I'll always be a book fan at heart, personally. I love the books. The world that George has crafted in those books is just absolutely phenomenal. I like the shows too, don't get me wrong. I'm really enjoying what House of the Dragon is doing. I loved Game of Thrones for the first few seasons until the ending. But yeah, I do think at the rate that this is progressing, it seems like there is so many Game of Thrones style TV series that are going to be greenlit over the next decade or so, and probably even beyond that, that yes, at some point the shows probably will outlast the books, unfortunately. especially if George doesn't finish the books. I mean, he really needs to get out Winds and A Dream of Spring. If he doesn't finish the book series, then yes, the shows will definitely outlast the books. But hopefully that isn't the case.
I hope that's not the case,
Hopefully,
because I'm a book lover.
And speaking of, do you ever think we will see the last books written? I do. I do think we will see these books get completed. Now, whether or not George is the one that completes them is going to be the question. I know he's been adamant up until this point.
Oh,
He
God,
has
all
stated
this.
that. Well, I know that he has stated up until this point that George has stated that he wants to be the ones to finish them, that he's not going to let anybody else finish them. He has said that in the past. But if something were to unfortunately happen and George were to unfortunately pass before he managed to finish the series, then yes, I think due to fan pressure and just the the George R. R. Martin estate that is left over, whoever is in control of the George R. R. Martin estate, be it his wife or children or whatever the case may be, yes, I do think they will eventually get this world finished out and fleshed out. Will it be George that writes the final book? Who knows? But I do think this series will get completed, whether it's George or somebody else that finishes it after George. It will get completed. I think George will get out Winds. I think Winds of Winter is probably on the horizon, not very soon, but I think we'll probably have Winds by maybe end of 2026, I'm thinking the latest. So I do think George will finish Winds. A Dream of Spring has always been the one book that is really in question. And speaking of books, I guess now's a good time, since we're talking about it. George did recently announce that he has just come out with, that will be coming out in October, a set of all new A Song of Ice and Fire book covers. He has a new cover for every book, a Game of Thrones cover, a Clash of Kings cover, Storm of Swords, Feast, and Dance. And all of these covers will be releasing this October. And a lot of people saw this and thought, ooh, if these are getting released, that must mean Winds is on the horizon. And I think that's the exact opposite. I feel like if Winds was on the horizon, they would have waited and released an entire box set, something similar to this. Since they're releasing this in and of itself, that tells me that Winds is nowhere near on the horizon. And George has mentioned, when Winds is finished and when Winds is coming out, everybody will know about it. It won't be one of those things where information starts to kind of just trickle out slowly. When Winds is coming out and when Winds is on the horizon, everybody will know it. There will be a massive announcement. It's not going to be one of those things that's mistaken or slowly trickled out. When Winds is close, everybody will know. And since this box set has just recently been announced, just me personally, from what I know about publishing, that tells me that Winds of Winter is not on the horizon. But that's just my opinion.
I
personally think I'm wrong.
I personally think he's doing this to try to get more young adults to read this series, and it is because of the style of art that is on the cover is the reason why I'm saying that, because if you go into a young adult section, it looks a lot like the covers that I'm seeing for fantasy now, although the one cover I really do like is
this one,
the Game of Thrones cover. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this I might actually buy this one just because I love the cover so much, but the rest of the covers I'm not really a big fan of.
I'm probably going to buy it just because I collect books. I have several different copies at this point. Like right now, I've been working on trying to get the UK editions of the UK first printings of the Song of Ice and Fire series that were done because the covers are so gorgeous. And I'm working on my original Bantam first printings, which I'm only missing one. So, but yeah, I mean, but yeah,
I'm probably only going to get this one. I don't know. I got enough Song of Ice and Fire covers.
I just don't know if they'll sell them singularly or not. Cause like the ones that I have that are set that look like dragon eggs, the dragon egg set that I have, it's only in a box. Like they don't sell these ones that I have that look like the leather ones that look like dragon eggs. Yeah.
If it's box set or bust, then I will pass on it personally. If they do end up selling these covers individually, I will, yeah, again, I will probably grab the Game of Thrones cover just because I really like the wolf kind of turning into the mountain there. I love, it's what is most likely supposed to be Jon Snow and Ghost. So if they sell them individually, I'll probably grab the Game of Thrones one. But if this is a box set only deal, then I will probably pass on this personally. But again, seeing as they are coming out with a box set in October, just that leads me to believe that Winds of Winter probably isn't on the horizon anytime soon. And I do think when Winds is close, like George said in his recent Not a Blog, it will be something that everybody knows about. There will be a massive announcement, and everybody will know exactly when and where Winds will be released. It won't be one of those things that surprises the fandom. Everybody will know well in advance, I think. So yeah, we got some new books coming out soon, but I think this spells more time for Winds of Winter, unfortunately.
You know what
And
I'm
we
kind of
just
pissed off
passed.
about? They didn't do another illustrated edition. I need another. They've done illustrated editions for 3 of the books. They could at least give me an illustrated edition instead of A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, and not the $200 ones. I'm talking about like the ones like the 3 that they did that have spectacular art in them. They were done like in the same style as Fire and Blood, the first hardcover version of it. Like they have their illustrated editions and they're gorgeous. So I would have wanted that instead of this. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably would have preferred that over this too as well. But yeah, I mean, if you guys, anyone who is, a collector out there, or if you are just a massive fan, I really do want the Game of Thrones cover. I mean, do I want it bad enough to buy the entire box set? I guess we have to wait and see how much this box set cost before I answer that. But I really do like the Game of Thrones cover. I feel like it is really badass. This one is really cool. The rest of them, I'm just not really feeling too much, I guess. It does kind of give off that YA feeling, which I've never been a big fan of myself. But there it is, folks. October, these will be out there in bookstores, and hopefully, again, I hope that Winds of Winter will be coming out sometime in 2026. I'm not expecting it this year, to be honest. Again, them announcing the release of this box set, especially this coming out as late as October, that tells me that Winds of Winter is nowhere near completion, unfortunately. So as much as I want Winds to come out this year, I don't think it is in the cards, but hopefully, we can get Winds of Winter at some point by the end of 2026. I'm hoping. And then we'll see what happens from that point on. George has mentioned that he does have a lot of other stuff he wants to write. He wants to do Fire and Blood Part 2. He's got tons of other Duncan Egg novellas that he wants to write. And of course, he still has A Dream of Spring. So once he finishes Winds of Winter, I guess we'll see what he will dive into afterwards, right after that. Will he go right into A Dream of Spring, or will he take a little bit of a detour and do something else in between? I get the feeling he'll probably take a detour knowing him, but who knows? Who knows? But yeah, there they are. Awesome, or at least one awesome new cover coming out this October for the Song of Ice and Fire original book series. But overall, I want to get everybody's final rating on this episode right here, this climactic episode of the Battle of Rook's Rest. I'll play a few clips of this awesome dragon combat, and then I want to get everybody's rating. Where did you guys think this episode rated? House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 4, where would you rate it from 1 to 10? 1 being shitty, 10 being phenomenal. Where do you guys put this one?
Bombas, Vhagar, Sir Daor. this!
Oof, man. And last, but certainly not least, and I got to say, I have to tip my hat not only to Alan Taylor, the director of this episode, but I really have to tip my hat to Ramin Djawadi, the just absolutely brilliant composer for Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, who has put forth some of the most beautiful music I've ever seen in any TV series or movie.
Angos Velis.
Just phenomenal score. Absolutely phenomenal score in that episode. And I got to say, Rhaenys definitely went out like a true dragon rider. She could have easily tuck-tailed and ran back to Dragonstone, but she said, no, let me strap in, let's turn around, and let's finish this now. So if nothing else, I have to tip my hat to Rhaenys and to Meleys, the Red Queen, as well. They fought absolutely admirably and honorably and fought to the last. But overall, I have to give this episode a 9. I gave this episode a 9 in my original review, and I definitely maintain that after watching it a few more times. I don't give out many 9s often. I feel like this episode was one of those ones where it built up to something, and the build-up and the payoff was worth the build-up, in my opinion. Anyway, I really much enjoyed the pacing in this episode. I've had some problems with some of the pacings in some of the first 3 episodes. I feel like some very important scenes were skipped over a little too quick, and some less important scenes were spent a little too much time on. But this episode, me personally, I really did enjoy the pacing. I thought they built up to the Battle of Rook's Rest beautifully, and I really enjoyed Aegon in particular in this episode. Him just being kind of shot down at every turn and no one around him taking it seriously, to the point where it leads him to do something incredibly rash and foolish, drunk dragon riding nonetheless. So overall, I will give the Battle of Rook's Rest and episode 4 a 9 out of 10. Really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see where episode 5 goes from here. But what about you, Kayla? 1 out of 10, where do you give episode 4?
I'm torn between like an 8.5 and a 9. And the reason why is because I would have liked to see a little bit more of their bonds earlier in the episode, the Dragon Rider bond earlier in the episode, a little bit more of that. I would have liked to see a little bit more of Duskendale, and I would have liked to have a longer dragon battle sequence, personally.
Okay. Awesome. All right. No doubt. What about you, Snug? Where do you put this one from 1 to 10?
I'm probably 8.5 to 9 as well. I thought it, and I would actually upgrade my rating for last week a little bit higher. Maybe, I think I said 6.5. I may go up to 7, just because I think that the way that they're kind of, the pacing was slow, but I think the pacing kind of led into, just the hesitancy to use the dragons against each other. So that's where I put it.
Awesome. What about you, Aldous? Where do you rate this one?
As a standalone episode, I think it's a 7.5 to 8.5, somewhere in that range. As part of an ongoing series, I gotta say like a 7. It's a great episode. But again, when I'm looking at this as a full thing, as a full story, this did a lot of things right. but it still was doing some of the same things wrong that the preceding episodes were doing as a season. At the end of this episode, I'm really confused as to their pacing and how they're gonna go. They've spent an inordinate amount of time building things up, and now they've got to shoehorn a lot of stuff in to get where I think they're gonna go. I think some things could have been paced a little different. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of, like I said earlier, the buildup of the small folk action into the dragon. I think that really would have added something to see some of the actual combat before the dragons entered, to show you how impactful they are and how much of a nuclear option it is. But overall, I mean, they're doing the dialogue, the acting is doing really good. It's just I have issues with the pacing of the series as a whole.
No, and I do too as well. I mean, I again, that's been some of my biggest, critiques, in season 2 so far, is there have been some pacing issues. There have been some kind of screen time management, questionable decisions at times as well. So yeah, absolutely. But no, that's great, man. I love to hear it. I love to hear what everybody likes, but I also love to hear what everybody thinks could have been done a little bit better as well. I love hearing these things. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. And it looks like we got some awesome scores in the chat as well. I see a 9 from Radical. I see a 10 from AC. I see a 9.2 avocados from Doc Hayes. That's right. Get them avocados out, ladies and gents. Get them avocados out. We got a 9.2 from Kiwi. We got a 10 from Rockers. We got a 9.5 from Leo V. We got another 9.5 from Misty. We got a 7.5 from Singur. Awesome. We got a 9.5, another 9. Awesome stuff, guys. We got another 9.5 from Greek Girl. Awesome stuff. Got a 9.8 from the Crazy Min Ace. I love it. I love it. And yes, RIP to Meleys, the Red Queen. And Doc wants to change his rating to a 9.5 out of avocados. I love it. I love it.
The dragon battle itself
awesome
gets a 10. Like the dragon battle
the dragon
itself, to
battle,
me, that's like just a 10 on its own. But the overall episode, I don't feel as a 10. Yeah, I don't feel like we've had an episode that's a 10 yet this season.
I haven't given out any 10s yet. I've given out some 10s during Game of Thrones, in particular, the very first episode of Game of Thrones ever, the pilot episode of Game of Thrones, I feel is a 10. I feel like the Battle of Blackwater Bay is also a 10.
Yes.
The Red Wedding, I would probably give the Red Wedding a 10. I would probably even give Baelor a 10 as well, the episode where Ned loses his head.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't think I've given out a single 10 to anything post House. When it comes to Game of Thrones season 4 on, I don't think I've given out a single 10 in any of those seasons, and I haven't given out a single 10 to House of the Dragon yet. I did give out a 9 in season 1, episode 8, the final episode that King Viserys was in, that just phenomenal episode, Lord of the Tides. And this is the second 9 that I have given on the House of the Dragon show up until this point. You got to really wow me for me to give a 10. But I do give this one a respectable 9. I really enjoy the dragon combat. I felt like it built up to something that I really did enjoy the payoff of personally. So yeah, I'm liking where the series is go. I'm looking forward to seeing the aftermath of this. I cannot wait to see, is Aemond going to become Prince Regent going forward? Will he wear the crown? And if he does, how exactly will Aemond's approach to the war differ from Aegon's? And how exactly will the Greens function as a whole with Aemond being in charge now? That is the aspect I am really looking forward to seeing. How is this battle going to shake up the structure of the Greens going forward? Give me some of that in episode 5. Although I am not ready to see my girl Meleys' head be paraded around King's Landing on that damn cart.
I will cry.
Which we do know is coming. It is coming.
No,
I have seen the trailer for
see
episode 5.
I know.
And in the trailer for episode 5, we do unfortunately see the head of Meleys being dragged around King's Landing on a cart.
Devastating. I don't want to see this.
Very unfortunate.
So
And tomorrow
sad.
night, right here on the channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 hours before the next episode of House of the Dragon loads up on HBO, I will be live right here for an awesome pregame show. So definitely come back and hang out tomorrow night, right here on the channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2 hours before House of the Dragon premieres. And we will kill some time and hang out and talk some House of the Dragon together while we wait for the new episode to load up. But again, I want to give a big thank you to each and every single one of you for hanging out with us this evening. I hope everybody is having a phenomenal weekend so far. Tomorrow is Sunday, so we still have the weekend to look forward to. House of the Dragon is less than 24 hours away now from episode 5. And again, we will be here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, for our usual pregame shows. And I imagine we probably might be streaming episode 5 live in our Discord as well. Kiwi has been so awesome. The awesome mod, Kiwi Skirt, has been so awesome lately and has been streaming the new episodes of House of the Dragon live in our Discord every Sunday night. So if you guys don't have any place to watch and you want to come and hang out with us and watch the new episode with us together, you are more than welcome. Hop into the Discord. Everybody is welcome there, and we will be diving into all things House of the Dragon after the episode airs tomorrow night as well. So again, big thank you to each and every one of you. Huge thank you to my awesome co-hosts for joining me on these awesome breakdown shows. And as always, everybody in the chat, stay safe out there. Stay kind to one another. And as always, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks, and we will see you on the next one.
Gods. Kings. Fire. And blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, even blood. All men of honour must pay its price. North owes a great duty to the Seven Kingdoms, one older than any oath. Since the days of the first men, we have stood as guardians against the cold and the dark. But my ancestor, Torrin Stark, began a tradition by making an offering at the onset of winter. 1 in 10 men from our household was to be chosen to fortify the watch. This is not a sentence, but an honour. A duty embraced by all who serve the North. Even by mine own kin. The North must stand ready. Winter is coming.
Traitor dragon Aelys, slain by King Aegon!
Our terms are simple. Bend the knee to me, or your house burns.
You were made to wear a crown.
The king does not lack for heirs.
The people whispered when Viserys lived there was peace.
The path I walk has never been trod.
There is more than one way to fight a war.
What we must do now is terrible.